What's up, podcast mortals? It is your boy, Kyle Conkeal. And since the last time I had a podcast, I only made it to episode 11. This is episode 12. And with me today, I have Gear God's own Trey Xavier. How's it going, Trey?
It is I, ya boy. Here I am to rock you like a small hurricane. Hurricane Kyle.
Or maybe like one of those like wind tunnels that like moves a bag around.
Yes, the most beautiful thing in the universe, right?
Yeah.
Like in American Beauty, the plastic bag.
It's just trash.
What the fuck is this? It's just a goddamn plastic bag.
Oh, so I posted on Facebook like an hour ago that I was like, oh, I don't really have any guests lined up for the podcast. And then you replied with
And I was like, I'm a narcissistic attention whore. I would love to be on your podcast. And then I made it, I pretended like I was a big shot, and I said that I would have my assistant contact your assistant.
But I am my own assistant.
Same. I'm,
So for the
I
people
was
that
hoping
don't
that the
know,
irony would get there. Sorry, go ahead.
no, it's fine. So for the people that don't know, you are the founder, creator, content creator for GearGods.net. Is that
CEO, owner, and on-camera talent. all of the above.
So you can find Trey at GearGods.net on Instagram. You can go to their YouTube channel. Just look up Gear Gods. They have GearGods.net. They've been doing a lot of cool stuff for a lot of years, and I've been following them pretty steadily for the past 5 or 6 years,
boy.
I think. With over
That's pretty much all of it. That's most of the time. I think it's been like 7 years. So
yeah, with over 1,000 videos on your YouTube channel, which is amazing. This will be the ninth or 10th video, I think, on my YouTube channel. So you've been doing a lot of, as before we got on the podcast, I said I put on my Jeff Bezos signature cardigan for the podcast.
mm-hmm.
You've been doing a lot of, I like to call them the Jeff Bezos signature guitar pedals on your YouTube channel. So how did you find these, first of all? Because I wouldn't have even thought to look for them.
Yeah, well, so when people ask me about like how to have a career on YouTube or whatever, I always tell them that they should do one thing over and over again. But to find the one thing that you're gonna do, you have to think about that, the ikigai, right? The thing that you're good at, the thing that you love to do, the thing the world needs, and all this, and like it's like the reason for being, right? It's the what's it called? The Venn diagram that includes like all of this different stuff. It will basically give you some kind of success and personal happiness. And the way that you discover that is by throwing shit against the wall until something sticks, and just trying lots and lots of stuff. And as you mentioned, we actually have, I think it's like 1,700 videos on the channel.
Yeah.
I say we because I have a small team of
Peeps.
cool people who are the remainder of the Gear Gods. But obviously I'm most of the face of it. So when something wild comes along, I have to decide if I'm gonna, put in the effort and energy to do a video or whatever on it. And Amazon Basics guitar effects pedals was just way too wild to pass up. I don't remember exactly who posted about it existing, but it was just like this. Somebody took a screenshot and was like, "Well, this exists now," and I was like, "All right." I ordered them immediately.
How many
Not
did
as
you
fast
buy?
as I should have. What?
How many did you buy?
Actually, on that first day, I only bought 2. I bought the overdrive. Where are they? I don't know. They're like on the ground behind me somewhere. I got the overdrive and the distortion pedal because I was like, I'm willing to spend $50 and go out on a limb here and see if this will stick. And I did the first one, the overdrive, and I was, as far as I know, the first person to actually crack the thing open and see what was inside of it. because once again, I was like, I don't. Like, if I break it, so fucking what? If it turned out to be amazing and then I open it and break it, I'll buy another one. Like, it's $25. So, and the video just hockey stick, you know what I mean? Like, took off. It's at like 75,000 views now.
Jesus.
Because I was like one of the first people to get it up, and I just went fucking ham. I just went nuts on it. Like, I don't know. I don't know what it is about these pedals that made me feel a little crazy, like a little bit like, I'm just going to do whatever the fuck I want. And I honestly, I think that's when most people hit success, when they go past feeling the
or as Deadpool would say,
inhibition.
when they hit fuck it.
When you hit fuck it is when you suddenly, when you get the freedom of creativity, just the drive to do whatever. And I have now done, let's see, I released I think the 5th video in the series today. I finished editing another one last night, and you know, I'll be a little bit sad when I run out because they've all been doing really well and people seem to really enjoy them. And I created the character of Tiny Jeff, little Jeff Bezos, flying around the screen.
I didn't see that in the first one. I've only seen the first one so far. But I thought, like, spoiler alert, like I thought it was hilarious when you cracked it open and it was like a Nuix, like, distortion pedal.
Well, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Like, a lot of people were like, "Oh, bro, are you even surprised? They like you think Amazon actually makes anything?" I was like, no, I wasn't surprised, but believe it or not, I made this into a video so that other people could see it and know that. It was just knowing what the specific brand was, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm not really surprised either. But I know for a long time, companies like Behringer have been making, like, I want to say, like, you know, the sound-alike pedals. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if you did videos, but I saw somebody do videos on these Behringer pedals that were basically, I think if they were like the digital copies of the pedal, that they were pretty much spot on. Because or maybe it was analog. I can't remember. I'm gonna have to figure it out.
There was a company who got sued recently because they made a digital version, I don't know, chorus pedal or delay pedal or something, and they literally just copy pasted the code from an electro-harmonics pedal, and they left in the thing that was like property of electro-harmonics, do not copy, like, just like flagrant rip-off, and they got sued pretty bad. Like,
maybe it was the analog versions of the pedal, because I know Patrick Hunter, who's a bass player, YouTuber, I know he did a video on the Behringer bass drive DI, which is supposed to be like a copycat of the Sans amp, but it's like $20, as opposed to like finding a used Sans amp on Reverb for like $80 or $90 or $100.
Yeah.
But it might be the actual analog, because I don't think that you can copyright analog components. Now, digital components, if you make something that's proprietary to your product, I believe you can copyright that. But when it comes to analog shit that you can find in some sort of electronics store, I don't think you can actually put like a patent on that, on how it's put together.
Well, I would imagine that they could patent the circuit design, but if that's true, then how are there so many exact copies out there, like you're saying? I don't really understand the law or anything about it, so I couldn't tell you, but it does seem, a little bit weird that there are so many perfect exact copies out there. Like, how many
808s are out there, you know, like the TS 808s, you know?
Thousands of copies for sure, and probably just as good. And then it comes down to like what it costs to manufacture it, if you're using good quality or cheap components with high or low tolerance, and then like the labor portion of it. So like these Amazon Basics ones are for sure Chinese made factory huge factories just like churning this shit out, not worrying about if they're really good or if they're using good quality components, because if they were, they couldn't sell it for $25 and make any kind of profit at all.
Yeah. Well, I know I've been a big supporter not of this company but of this pedal for a really long time, and it's the original full tone MOSFET bass drive, the first one.
I haven't tried that.
Like I heard it on like the He Is Legend album, It Hates You, and I was like, that's what distorted bass sound is supposed to sound like. And I remember, I think it was earlier this year or late last year, there was all that stuff about the guy who owns Full Tone saying a bunch of bullshit and not nice things about certain groups of people.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, you know what? I like this pedal, but I think it could be improved on. So I hit up one of my buddies who I saw was making pedals, and I basically just told him, I was like, hey, I want you to make me what I called the full clone Conc-Fet bass drive. And he basically made it a third the size, because that's a massive pedal. Like, actually, my buddy Matt Dennis has it right now, but it's like this big.
Jeez.
But he made it into a singular, like a standard size, like, no bigger than a Boss TU2. And it literally sounds better than the original pedal, because he went out of his way to there was a bunch of shitty components that were inside that were like Chinese components that he replaced with like, I don't know, fucking Russian components. And
Chinese components, Russian components, all made in Taiwan. That's from Armageddon. Sorry, go ahead.
But
he's hitting it with the wrench.
But so the one thing he wasn't able to do, I was a little bummed about it, but it's still smaller than the actual pedal area, is I wanted to add a blend to it, because that's the one thing I thought the pedal was lacking. He's like, for how small I made the pedal, I don't have enough room for the blend feature, but I'll make you a blend pedal. So I kind of just have them as one, just continuously hooked up. And instead of being like, like that big, it's, like that big now. So it's not is not as much real estate, and it sounds better. And all the components that he used were really, really, really good. And I was just like, if I don't want to take a vintage boutique pedal out on tour, but I also don't want to support a guy who is a piece of shit either,
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's a tough one, because you're like, well, I was using this pedal the whole time, just not knowing his feelings on certain matters.
Yeah.
Now the pedal itself hasn't changed, and you don't maybe like put some tape over it so that if you do a rig rundown or if somebody takes a look at your pedal, they don't know.
Well, to be fair, I only took it out on one tour. And again, I don't want to take vintage boutique stuff out. Like if I find a pedal that I like, Enrique is his name is Enrique Maldonado. He's a Jersey guy, really good friends with my guitar player Doc. If there's a pedal I like and I'm just afraid to take it out, just because old pedals can be finicky, and you don't want to get them messed up or stolen. Like, I would much rather pay Enrique to clone that pedal if it's a lot harder to come by, and take the clone out as long as it sounds as good or better. So I still wouldn't want to take it out on tour. I felt really weird taking it out on the one tour I did, and that was before all the craziness. But I think I would still much rather take the clone out. But I'm honestly, my rig every single fucking tour since Bad Wolves started touring. And even when I went out with Devin Townsend for the 70,000 tons of metal, my rig completely changed then too. So I'm the one thing I am looking forward to is I got my artist pre-order for the Neural DSP Quad Cortex.
Oh yeah.
And just because I'm not really using cabinets anymore, and I'm not really a fan of how bass has been sounding with me. I mean, through other guys, there's a bunch of guys I know who use Kemper and Axe effects for bass, and it sounds great. Like maybe my finger tone just sucks and it doesn't work with me. But I've been really wanting to try the Quad Cortex because I literally just want my entire rig to be on a pedal board. I don't want to have to. I want my rig to sound exactly the same as when I'm in the United States, or if I'm doing a fly date down in Mexico, or if I'm going to Argentina or Australia or what have you. I want it to be the exact same rig. So once, I'm waiting to get that email confirmation so they can take my money. And
yeah, dude, I've been wanting to like really dig into that thing. I got to try it at NAMM for a couple minutes, and it seemed cool. I mean, they still at the time were like basically finishing it up, like still adding a lot of the effects and models and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it's I am hugely into digital modeling. I mean, we could fight till the end of time about whether or not it sounds as good or whatever, but like the sheer convenience factor alone, I'm like, sign me the fuck up. Like, I don't need to be carrying some shit. Like, it's 2020. Like, I mean, nobody's carrying shit anywhere, but it's the future. Like, just
embrace it.
Like, if you play in a metal band like I do, and you like don't have a lot of money, like I don't, like, why try and bring a 4x12 on tour, or 2 or 4 4x12s? Like, just bring the damn pedal and work on it until it sounds as good as you can possibly get it, and then remember that your audience doesn't give a shit, like it's way more important for you to put the time in to make it sound as good as you can get it, and have a really good front of house engineer.
Yeah, like we do, Robbie Brown.
Yeah, and to put on a fucking good show, and not to worry about your gear. Just fucking play your ass off,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, gear's important. Obviously, the name of the show is Gear Gods, but like,
touring can be a lot more simple. I know, like, I remember the first Bad Wolves tour. At the time, I was using Mesa Boogie heads, powered by Omega cabinets. Actually, Mike Smith over there built me a ridiculous 4x10 by 1x12 by 1x15, massive,
the all-in-one.
Yeah, all-in-one, and they all ran at the same time. And I was using that in a tiny little pedal board, and then I kind of expanded my pedal board, and I realized, oh, this is too much. And then I got with EBS, and they sent me 2 heads and 2 cabs. So then I was on tour with 2 8x10s, 2 heads, and then I had this rack drawer just filled with pedals, and I was like, okay, this is too much. So then I like scaled it down. I was like, all right, no cabs, and then I started using the dark glass head, and I was just using the cab sim out of the back of the dark glass head, and then my guitar tech Tim Walker, he built me this little MIDI rig. Because I had 3 different sounds. I had a clean, a dirty, and an overdriven. So he built me this I had a little MIDI mouse from Tech 21, and then that was going to a Voodoo Labs Hex, and I could just go to 1, 2, 3, or 4. 1 was my clean, 2 was my dirty, 3 was my overdrive, or the mega distortion, and then 4 was mute, completely mute. And then even that, like, I tried taking that to Europe, because I did that when we went out with Five Finger Death Punch and 3 Days Grace in November, December of last year. And then I tried taking that rig to Europe for Five Finger Death Punch and Megadeth, and just getting it over there, like finding a rack that would fit because like you can't rack mount the dark glass heads. And my rack got fucked up. The chassis that was holding the head got fucked up. Like, my Furman got fucked up. Like, everything got fucked up because I didn't have a proper ATA flight case for that. Yeah. And like, my pedals got all janky. I had to like take some of them apart and, kind of dust everything out. And I was just like, it's gotta be easier than this. So I was thinking for a long time, you know, when I was working with Dev earlier this year, he was using the Axe FX3, and I knew that some of my boys in Breaking Benjamin had moved over to the Axe FX3, so I was like, well, fuck, maybe I'll give that a try. But it didn't really solve the problem that I wanted to alleviate in the first place. It was, I would still have to bring a rack and a piece of shit. I would still have to bring a rack and a pedal board wherever I went. And I kind of just wanted to not do that anymore. So when I saw the announcement for the Quad Cortex, I was like, cool, it's 8 by 11 inches, which is fairly small for a modeler.
It's like a piece of paper, actually.
Yeah, it's literally a piece of paper.
This is 8.5 by 11, so it's this big.
Yeah.
I just happen to have that there.
Is that your surrender flag?
Yep. I give up.
So when I saw that, I was like, well, you know, because I use Temple Audio for pedal boards.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, I hit up Cass over at Temple, and I was like, look, this is what I want to do. And he was like, cool, get this. And you know, I got the flight case to go along with it. It'll fit the Quad Cortex. It'll fit 2 or 3 pedals if I turn them sideways. If I can't seem to find, you know, because I use multi-band distortion to keep the low end for the grindy stuff. So I would just put my X7 on there, and I definitely do want to keep my Origin Effects bass compressor. So it kind of gives me a little bit of wiggle room, but there's also enough room underneath the pedal board to where I can mount my wireless as well. So, and I could also put enough power underneath there to literally power the entire board, and that's my entire rig. And for me, that I think that makes more sense than like, oh, my rig's back behind the light dummy cabs and all the way over there, where if something's going on, at least if I do have to mess around with some technical difficulties, it's only a few cables and it's right there in front of me, instead of like, I would have fucking technical difficulties and you'd see me running across stage to go to the back area, like, what's going on here? Or I'd have to like yell at my tech, be like, turn the clean channel down. And this way, because there wasn't really a way for me to, besides having my whole rig at the house and plug headphones into the back of the head, there wasn't really a good way for me to figure out the levels of my channels either. But with a modular type situation, I feel like I can you know, plug my in-ears into the actual product itself and know for the most part how it would sound going to front of house. Which I feel, if you have like heads and you're using different, you know, volumes and different pedals and stuff, it could differ, and those knobs can turn during travel. Whereas if you have a modular, none of your settings are going to get fucked up unless you want them to be fucked up. So I know that was just like a huge rant on.
No, it's all good. I mean, I'm 100% with you on that. I mean, the other thing that people don't really think about is the size of venue that you're playing makes such a big difference, because like the size of venue that you guys are playing, like having even 2 8x10s, like what possible fucking difference could it make when it's being pumped through a like 50,000 watt PA?
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not going to be playing a venue that size anytime soon. My band has not yet hit the level
I don't know
of
if we
success.
are either, you know what I mean? Because
Whatever.
It's Rona outside.
Well, not now, but I mean, you know. Yes. Have you heard about this virus that's going around? Nobody's going to shows, Trey. But you know, when presumably the world gets back up and running, you know, like you were talking about, like you're out there with, you know, your Bad Wolves plays with Five Finger Death Punch, Megadeth, like they're not playing your local watering hole, where you know you gotta. Oh, but that even the problem there is like that size of venue is way too small for an 8x10.
Yeah.
Like, what is the 8x10? What size of venue is that for? Like,
I think that's why a lot of companies don't really make them anymore, because I really think, honestly, because I remember this vividly. I went and saw Suffocation with Fear Factory at the Observatory in Orange County, probably back in 2007, maybe 2006, 2007.
Little baby
And
Kyle.
And I remember this was the version of Fear Factory that had Christian Olde playing guitar, and they had Byron Stroud from Strapping Young Lad playing bass.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, so it was Suffocation, then Fear Factory. And I remember when Fear Factory came on, you know, Christian had like both sides of the stage had like, you know, 3 full stacks of Marshall cabs, and Byron had like 4 Ampeg 8x10s like laying horizontally on top of each other. And like now as I get older, I'm like, that's really just kind of like, I feel like that is the equivalent of just like yeah, that's how big my dick is. You know what I mean? Like
it's big dick in it.
yeah.
So
So
they're big dickin'.
I mean, honestly, with exactly how you said, and for the most part, because a lot of guys go direct, a lot of these bigger audio packages come with those little speakers that are in the front of the stage that make it so the people in the front, even though they're, you know, 6 or 7 feet away, can hear everything that's on the stage. So they have the lower speakers in the front that point towards the people literally in the front so they can hear everything as well. Because, I mean, you could see crazy-ass rigs, and I have seen some crazy-ass rigs, but for the most part, they're not mic and cabs.
Yeah.
Like, you could have that for stage sound. I know a lot of singers... Oh, Jesus, piece of shit.
Ooh, get it out there.
Um,
I'm going to let a couple rip. I've been holding them back here, but if
no,
that's the atmosphere.
that's
I got
allowed
bubbly
here.
water right
That's
here.
allowed here.
Encouraged even.
I know a lot of singers still do like either no in-ear or one ear out. So the only reason a lot of those live amps are even there is so that the singer can hear what's going on stage for the most part. Because you don't need a massive monitor package if everybody's going direct, you know, and everybody has in-ears. And honestly, I didn't pick up the in-ears until, I want to say, 2017 or 2018. But I was never a guy who was just raw dogging his eardrums on stage either. When I discovered in-ears, I was like, what the fuck have I been doing my entire touring career? It was like night and day. I was so used to using earplugs on stage and having everything muffled, and then still having to have a monitor in front of me that was literally blasting into my microphone because I couldn't hear, you know, I couldn't hear certain vocals. I couldn't hear certain guitars. So it was just like everything was still in the monitor, but I was using earplugs. But now I have full control over the volumes of everything in my ears, and
Absolute power!
pretty much. And I was just like, I don't ever want to do another show without in-ears ever again. Like, it literally, some people are, I really think there's not really a gray area with in-ears. You either love them or you hate them. Because I know a lot of the older school guys, like when I was playing with Jed from Strapping Young Lad and Scar the Martyr and Vimic, he was like, fuck no, never. But he would raw dog them eardrums on stage. And I was like, I can't, dude. So because we couldn't get everybody on in-ears, it didn't make sense for everyone to go buy in-ears and then not use them, you know, because we weren't going to get an in-ear rig if everybody didn't want to use it. So, but
It's like that group chat where one person has an Android, so all of the text is green, and you're like, God fucking damn it, Tim, or whatever. Just get a fucking iPhone.
Or at least just
No,
like,
man, I don't want to be on the Apple ecosystem.
I don't want to be in the cloud. So, but yeah, honestly, besides the modeling, like how advanced the in-ear ecosystem has become, because it's like, you know, it really doesn't matter. You like what in-ear company you get. Like if you're buying high-end in-ears through, you know, either Ultimate Ear, West Tone, JH Audio, 64 Audio, which I just bought some from 64 Audio. You know, I really think you can't go wrong. Because they're like fucking 900 drivers in your ear now. Like when they started out back in the 80s, it was just like, it was basically a hearing aid that was hooked up to to a wireless pack. But yeah, so that's kind of I've been trying to focus on how I want my next rig to be, because I don't want to be building rigs anymore. And the only reason why I had to buy fucking new in-ears is because the third to last show we did in Europe with Megadeth and Five Finger Death Punch, my we were in Milan, Italy. My fucking in-ears got stolen.
Oh, what? Ugh. How dumb do you have to be to steal molded in-ears?
I don't think that they did it because they wanted my in-ears. I think they were doing it to inconvenience us, because my crew had gotten into it with some of the Italian crew, and the Italian crew didn't realize that one of the guys in my crew spoke fluent Italian, so knew that they were talking shit. And it's really weird because my in-ear case that those in-ears were in it's a pretty decent sized Pelican, and it has a big carabiner that has a big loop. So my guitar tech, Tim, literally connects the rest of the smaller in-ears to my massive in-ear case.
Oh, yeah.
So they literally unhooked the in-ears and took the big one. So
wow.
And
that is
who knows?
right there.
They might not have
like,
known like what they might not have known like what it was, or they literally could have just grabbed them and threw them in the trash. They were just like, fuck this, guys. But actually, so what I'm doing to all of my gear from now on, and I'm talking with 64 Audio right now, is let me get these little bastards. This is not paid promotion. I don't have any sponsorships with them, but I'm getting these little tiles integrated into all my cases. Now, these will last a year, so you will have to replace them every year. And I think the premium membership for Tile is $29 a year. So there's a slim one, which is like a credit card size, and then there's like a bigger one that you can put on your keychain. So we're going to figure out a way to integrate this into my in-ear Pelican that they have for me, and you don't have to charge them. And I believe with the Tile, it can tell you within, I think, like 10, 15 feet where your Tile is if you have it hooked up on your phone. Yeah, see, there you go.
They get better than that. I don't know what that one was.
So for like my Enki case that has my really expensive fucking Dingwall basses in there, you know, my new pedal board case that is going to have really expensive electronics in there, my in-ear case, and then I'll probably have another Pelican that's a string Pelican. All of my cases were going to have hidden integrated tiles that I'll only have to replace once a year. So
smart.
Once I get these rolling, I have a year. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for, because I have like a stack of these fucking bastards. So about a week before we go on tour, I'm going to activate them all. And then, you know, for the next year, I'll be good. So if someone decides that they want to steal.
The question is, will you remember in a year?
I'm going to have to set a reminder, probably. Like, I'm going to, hey Siri, like in a year, will you let me know to get new tiles? Or in like, in 10 months, will you let me know to get new tiles?
Yeah.
Because I'm just tired of shit getting lost, and I know shit gets. I think we've been to Europe 3 times, and 2 out of those 3 times, I've been sitting at baggage claim at LAX, wondering where the fuck are my Dingwall bases.
No, that's the worst.
So at least now, and maybe I'll try to get some of the boys to do this as well. I don't know if they will. But at least now for me, you know, when I get off the plane and I have service, I don't have to wait and like wonder where my bases are. I could be like, oh, this case is still in Saudi Arabia, or this case is in Paris when it was supposed to be in LA. So at least then I could know, you know.
I lost my luggage in Berlin once. Fucking Berlin TKL airport, because there's 2 Berlin airports. I found out all kinds of stuff about Berlin and airports and all because what happened is I walked right fucking past the luggage carousel, because it was immediately after you got off the plane. And I was thinking that it would be, you know, like you go out to like a normal fucking baggage claim place is.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
it would
you
be
go
out to where
of
you
the
exit
terminal.
the airport. Yeah.
And so my luggage was literally just sitting there, and I couldn't go back in. I'd already gone out from security.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, you're gonna have to go to the baggage services and shit." And I was like, literally, I know where my fucking bag is. You need to just send somebody to the carousel right now to grab it. And it was like 2 hours of me sitting there waiting, and then I had to go somewhere. and it was 2 weeks until I got my bag back.
Jesus Christ.
It was the worst travel nightmare I've ever experienced. Anyway, and that was last year. I'll tell you, like, I'd give a lot to be anywhere on doing a trip and lose my baggage at this point. I'm okay with it. If I can go on a trip, go back to Europe and hang out, holy shit, sign me the fuck up.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you, man. Actually, so when I do overseas travel, typically what I'll do is I try to only take 3 pieces of gear. Oh God, such a piece of shit. I try to only take 3 pieces of gear. I have my guitar case. I have, a rack or a pedal board, and then I'll bring my Pelican, and me and the boys will, and that'll be like our strings and accessories and other bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll bring 1 carry-on, well, 2 carry-ons because backpack, and then a small carry-on, and then I'll have 1 luggage bag that's massive that has my fucking Jordans and my big fluffy jackets and shit when you go to Europe. But I remember I was getting off the plane. I think I was at London Heathrow. It had to be London Heathrow. My least favorite fucking airport. I will get to why it is my least favorite airport after this story.
You've never been to Berlin TKO?
And I remember I was exiting the plane, and I'd done this twice. Because what I like to do when I get on big fucking international flight is I walk in the plane, I find an open like baggage compartment, and even if it's not in my area, I'm like, that's where my bag's going. I don't care. Like,
you don't care.
I don't care, because I want my backpack that has all my tech supplies, my computer, and all my other shit. I want that to be able to be close to me. So I always just throw my luggage, and I fucking left the plane, forgot my luggage bag.
Oh, fuck.
And I was like, oh, wait. And I went to go turn around. They're like, you can't get back on the plane. I'm like, I'm still in the walkway. Like, can I come back and I left my bag. They're like, no, you need to wait here. We'll get your bag for you. And then the next time I did that, I forgot that I told my drummer that I would get his pedals, his kick pedals. I left the fucking kick pedals on the plane. And they wouldn't let us back in. Like, the second you leave the plane, you're not allowed back on the plane.
You are persona non grata.
Yeah, like even if like your little
off.
toe is like outside of the plane on the walkway, they're like, you have already exited the plane. You cannot come back. But to what I was saying about London Heathrow is, for some reason, I don't know why. And I thought I was going to get fucking kicked off the plane when we were coming home from Europe earlier this year. I thought they were going to be like, no, this motherfucker ain't going home. I always get pulled in for extra security when I'm at London Heathrow. I'm like, I've already been through 2 securities. The security when you come into the airport, the security to get to your gate, and then you still need extra security. It's happened every single fucking time. And they didn't tell me what to do the last time. So I was just like standing there like an idiot. And they're like, no, sir, you need to go sit down over there and take off your shoes and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, all right, cool. And then I was trying to ask somebody some questions, and I kept getting interrupted and barking at. I'm like, yo, please, like, stop yelling, first of all. I know I say that jokingly a lot, but I was like, and then finally, so she kept raising her voice to me. I'm like, yo, don't talk to me like that. If you're going to talk to me like that, like, I don't have to get on this plane. I really don't. I do not care. I will stay in London for another day. And
I'll hang out with the Queen.
I'll go get fucking Nando's and Wagamama for another day. I don't care. And so they had to get like the I don't know what it is over there, like the TSA head security, and they're like, do we have a problem? I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be yelled at. I'm fucking 34 years old, and I'm not going to be yelled at. Like, if they want me to do something, they need to be clear with their instructions and not just like leave me high and dry and yell at me because my fucking shoes are in the wrong place or I'm not supposed to be standing there, And
yeah. So dumb. Like, it's the worst when you're like, I am very willing to comply with all of your instructions. I am not here to be a problem, But if you don't tell me what to do,
I can't do
and
it.
then expect that I'm gonna know, like, fuck right off.
Yeah,
Like,
and then be a
fuck
total
right off.
dick about it.
Yeah, like I don't. Yeah, I don't know that. Oh, I don't want to say that I have a problem with authority because
That'll
in
get you
those
flagged,
kinds of situations, I don't. What?
That'll get you flagged. Put
Look at
you.
me flagged.
Yeah.
Because
Then they're
in
gonna
those
flag
kinds
you
of
as this guy.
situations, I'm like, I understand that the reason that you have been given this authority is because someone wants to use this plane as a fucking bomb,
Yeah.
and I don't want that to happen. So I am happy to do whatever you say. It's unjust authority that you get mad about, or abuse of that, even a just and important authority that exists for a good reason, and then somebody abuses it, or but that's even not even quite as good as that, or shitty as that. You
Yeah.
just like, no, just fucking tell me specifically what you want me to do. Don't expect me to know anything because I'm not a fucking professional plane
Safety person.
what's the word? Yeah. No, just even like plain passenger. I don't do this for a living.
Yeah.
You know, like once every 4 or 5 months or whatever, I get on a plane. It's usually the same shit. But like, come on, you
Yeah.
can't expect me to know every goddamn thing. And then why did you pull me out of line for a random security check? Like, fucking do it. Go and check in my butthole, you piece of shit. Guess what you're gonna find? One of you, because you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, and I was honestly, I was ready. I was like, they're gonna fucking pull me out of here. I'm gonna have to be like detained in some sort of office. I'm gonna have to pay extra money to get a different flight. And luckily they didn't. And I think I was just cranky because we flew from Budapest or Austria. No, yeah, Austria to Heathrow. That same day, and our flight was at like 6 a.m. or something. So I was already cranky flying from Austria to my least favorite airport that I've ever been to. I've never been to your terrible Berlin airport, I don't think. And if I had, I haven't had any mishaps. But I was already cranky. Like 7 dudes trying to get into the airport with like 33 pieces of gear at 6 a.m. is never fun. I don't know if it was that much gear, but it might have been, I think, around like 22 pieces of gear.
I've only been on a proper tour one time, but it was in Europe, and the logistics of getting that much shit
It's a nightmare.
on a plane without paying a fortune too. Like, we pulled a fast one like you would not believe. So the band that I was playing with at the time that I was I just like filled in on bass for a band, and the guy who's the drummer owns like a media production company. He just does like events and stuff, like brings up PA and monitors and podiums and all kinds of shit, And so he convinced, like, I guess if you're in the media, they'll give you
a media pass. Yeah.
Yeah, media pass. You get extra carry-ons or extra luggage for free.
Yeah.
And that worked pretty great because they told them that we were shooting a documentary about a band. And we fucking pulled one over on them until there was one of these things where, like, we got on a plane that was what's the word? It was like operated by Alaska Airlines, but it was actually some other
like
thing.
An affiliate plane.
Yeah, and they didn't get the memo or whatever, and so we had to have. Basically, the guy had to have it out with them. Like, was like, no, like, I went through all the right channels. I have all of this information and everything. They were trying to charge us like $1,000 to get on this plane with all of this stuff,
dude.
And we were like, oh god, fucking damn it, like, we're just piss poor.
We went to Russia in it wasn't 2019, maybe it was 2018. I don't remember when we went to Russia, but dude, like, first of all, Russia is fucking dope, and I would love to go back, but I don't even want to tell you how much they made us pay, because they charged us 3 separate times. and they would not let us go through security or take our equipment until we paid them 3 separate times.
What the?
So like times your $1,000 by like 6 or 7.
Jesus fuck.
It was.
And then translate that into rupees.
The Russian. Actually, I still have 100 Russian rupees left over, which I think is like $1.75.
That's some. I can't think of it. Russian food. That's a little bit of borscht for you. Next time,
I will
you're
say
like, this is my borscht money.
I will say I did have an amazing time in Russia. I went to like this really dope rock bar, and for the most part, you know, most places they speak English, because any Slavic language, I am just like, you might as well just be writing alien to me or speaking alien to me, because with Latin languages, you know, like, you know, German and most, you know, most of Europe, I can kind of figure out what I need and where I need to go and what's what. But like if you go to like Poland or Hungary or Bulgaria or fucking Russia, like I have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
Oh,
For a second. Yeah, if it's some kind of romance language, like I took Latin, I took a lot of German, like if you figure out the root words, it's all like basically the same, and then just like a little bit of experience, and you can like get by.
Yeah.
But the second they're using like, what is it, the Cyrillic alphabet,
Yeah.
a different, like completely different like root for the language, like fuck right off. Like Polish is bonkers. I went to Poland for the first time last year, and I had a great time. Everybody there was cool as shit. Met a bunch of really cool people, and actually everyone there speaks great. Everybody that I spoke to, at least, spoke great English with a super thick accent.
Yeah.
And to me, to Americans, it sounds like a Russian accent, and they're like, no, it's very different from Russian accent. You hear the difference.
No, you still sound like every fucking James Bond villain I've ever seen in my entire life.
Exactly. And like when they do it and they point out the differences, it sounds distinct to me. But like if you dropped me in the middle of Gdansk or whatever, and was like, where are you in the world? And I just listened to somebody speak, I'd be like, Russia. I'm in Russia. And they'd be like, no, it's Poland. Why are you so stupid? Fucking stupid American.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's because we are. You don't really.
And I'm like, listen, Vladimir, you're Russian. Shut up. But luckily, I think they, you know, they're very smart and international, and like, they all speak great English because it's the language of the world, so that we can be lazy and privileged.
Well, a lot of other countries, like I know in Sweden, and I know I have a few friends in Germany, like they teach English in school. Like,
yeah.
What languages do they teach us like here? But it's their like elective is like Spanish and French. Like I didn't have.
I was
like
lucky to be able to take German.
Yeah, I didn't have that. I mean, I'm in LAUSD. I mean, I don't know where you grew up. But...
Massachusetts.
Oh, masshole, huh?
Yeah, I'm a fucking masshole kid. What are you gonna do about it?
So we met briefly because I believe you were on the 70,000 tons of metal.
Hell yeah! Every year until I die, I will go on that fucking cruise. It's so much fun.
Has it been canceled? Have they announced cancellation?
It has not been canceled yet. I think they're just holding out hope for that. You know, that last maybe. And I honestly don't know. I have no idea if it's going to happen or not, but God, I hope so.
Yeah.
God, I hope we get this shit figured out before then, January.
Yeah, I know they canceled Winter NAMM, which would have been my I want to say my 16th consecutive NAMM.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I've been going to NAMM since I was 34. Yeah, so like 17, 18, maybe, no,
God
19.
Damn.
Yeah.
If you've lost count, it's a lot.
Yeah.
No matter what.
But I remember that was I'd never done a cruise. I'd never been on a cruise. I think the only time I was ever on a boat that went out into the ocean was like on a ferry or whale watching when I was in 5th grade. And you didn't even get to see any whales.
If there's no whales, what you did was not whale watching. It's just sitting on a boat and being disappointed. Which is always a risk when you go whale watching.
Yeah. So I remember it was October of last year, and I get a call from Wes Hauk, and he's like, "Hey, you want to come play some fucking Strapping Young Lad songs with me and Devin Townsend?" And I'm like,
Do you
"Does
have what it
the
takes?"
Pope shit in the woods? Of course I fucking do." And I talked with Dev. We rehearsed a little bit in L.A. and then we flew from L.A. to Miami, and we went and did the boat, and we had 2 days of rehearsal. I think I had 3 weeks maybe to learn material, because I was touring until December 15th, and then we were rehearsing together on January 4th or 5th in LA. So very, very, very short amount of time to get everything together. And I just remember, getting to the boat, and I was like, this is ridiculous. I had never seen anything like it. I was like, you mean to tell me I can get food whenever I can get drinks whenever I want? And I was very fortunate. I didn't realize that not everyone else on the boat had the amenities that I did in my fancy upper level. In my upper level, what is it, the states room or whatever they call it?
State room, yeah.
Yeah. And because I had a room by myself, I thought maybe I'd be sharing with somebody, or I didn't exactly know how that worked. And I was very fortunate that I had a nice room all to myself with a big old queen bed and a fucking a balcony, so I can see I was like, yo man, I could definitely get used to this.
It's nice.
So you've been on every single one?
No, I think this most recent one was my 4th time.
Jesus.
But I'll keep on going till the end of time. I love it so much. It's my proper vacation for the year, I do a fair bit of travel. I do a fair bit of traveling across the Yubaverse. It's one of the perks of my job.
Yeah.
One of the many perks. I love my job. I don't know if I mentioned that. But, I get I'm lucky to go to Europe at least once a year, usually under normal circumstances, of course.
Yeah.
But even though it's super fun, it's not really a vacation.
Yeah.
This is a vacation. I cannot relax under normal circumstances. I'm bad at relaxing. This is something I'm discovering recently.
Yeah.
If I go somewhere and I have my laptop with me, I feel like I want to work, I want to do something.
Yeah.
And there's that kind of guilt, but you can't not relax when you're sitting in a hot tub, sipping a chocolate milkshake and watching fucking Arch Enemy play. That was probably one of the very greatest moments of my whole life. Just sitting there
Is there footage of that somewhere?
There's Jeff Loomis. No, because when I go, I film stuff because that's, why I'm there.
Yeah.
But I don't worry about it, Yeah. And there's plenty of time that's just Trey time, just having a good time, Actually, one of the other greatest moments of 70K was when the backing tracks went down for the Devi show. And
what most people don't
holy
realize about
shit.
that set is, I'm not sure if you remember this, but so not only did the backing tracks go down, but it was super windy and super wavy, and someone threw a beach ball onto the stage, and I kicked it, and it knocked over Devin's mic stand. There's footage.
I don't remember.
I can't watch it. It's too cringeworthy.
You're just he's up there singing into nothingness, looking at you
Luckily,
thanks,
there was a
thanks.
break in the vocal, and so Dev's guitar tech, Sick Dick Nick, was able to run over, pick up the mic stand, put another bottle of water in there, and clean up the water that spilled on the stage before his next vocal.
You got lucky.
Yeah, I did.
But it was, dude,
that was
everyone
fun.
that I talked to said that it was the best. I mean, it was better than the other set, which had didn't have those problems at all, but because Devin is absolutely goddamn hilarious
Yeah.
and like just rolled with it, and you guys like yeah, okay, there were no like cool synthy backing tracks and everything, but like
Who cares?
who cares? Like who fucking cares? It was just oh my god. Something about it changed the whole atmosphere of the show. And then we would have forgiven literally anything. Like nobody was mad about it, you know. Some bands they have a problem like that and they're like, I'm sorry, we're experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by. You know, they just don't know how to roll with it.
Yeah.
Like I built, you know, this whole in-ear rig. I've got a video on the channel about it. It's a very expensive end table now, thanks 2020.
Yeah.
But I set it up so that there's I haven't actually gotten to the point of installing this thing yet, but I set up all the rigs and everything so that we could have like basically a kill switch, like or a panic button. Okay? So that if the backing tracks and the in-ear click thing goes down, it defaults to like a very basic guitar tone.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically usable for whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just and it shuts off the backing track machine, clicks and everything, so that we can keep going and get through a gig if we have to.
Yeah.
And I think you're either gonna have that attitude or you're gonna let your laptop like rule your life, you know, like have it just be this constant anxiety like possibility. And you know, if you're like Devin and you know it's going to be okay and you just love yourself and love what you do and you have
he put a lot of
great
faith in us on that one.
And
he put a lot of faith into guys that he had only jammed with 2 times before.
Yeah.
But I mean,
he
most
seems
of it
like that, you know.
Most of it honestly was Dirk. I think if we didn't have somebody who was the caliber of musician that Dirk is, because Dirk recorded those drums on a lot of those songs that we played, he knew them really well. So I think if we didn't have somebody who knew the materials that was drumming as well as he did, it would have been a fucking shit show. Because not only is it the click, it's the synths, but it's also there are transitional vocal cues that Devin had put in there to make everything like, you know, we would hear like a 1, 2, 3, 4 in the middle before every other transition. So if there was like, you know, the beginning riff of Detox and then it changed to the next riff, we had a vocal cue to let us know that the riff was changing, because he'd wanted to make it as simple as possible for everybody involved. And it kind of made it so, you know, I didn't really have to learn transitions. I'd be like, oh, there's that count. I know it's changing to this next riff. And I would never have to second guess myself while playing. It was like, honestly, the way that he does his cues and his slates for the in-ears is, I don't think anybody does it better that I've worked with anyway. It's literally perfect. It is idiot proof until it doesn't work.
until it literally doesn't exist anymore.
But that was probably some of the most fun I think I've ever had playing a show, because I've been there where, you know, the computer is the show, and it's, you know, it's gone down and we don't really know what to do, you know. But I have talked, but when we were doing that show, I remember even afterwards, like, I was expecting Dev to be like, well, that fucking sucked, but he was so stoked about it. Like, even when I kicked over his mic stand with the beach ball, he was like, dude, that was great. Like,
well, you can't plan that shit, you know? Like,
yeah. And
you just, I mean, really, if you think about it, okay, it's kind of funny that we're sitting here being like, even though the computer went down, we were still able to have a rock and roll show. Like, oh, you guys managed to play these songs that you got hired to learn, and like, oh, good. Like, I mean, it, like, you guys are all super badasses. Like,
thank you so much.
I mean, yes, Dirk,
one of the best drummers
machine.
in the world.
He's
one of
so
the best drummers
great.
in the world.
But the other and Wes is outrageously good.
One of the best guitar players in the world.
And you play the bass. And I
That is true.
And
that is true. I do play the bass.
And you play but you play in like bands with very fucking difficult material, and I have not really listened to you play the bass all that much, and I'm very sorry. But I've heard. I mean, I saw you play those nights, and everything sounded fucking great. The bass is not a glory instrument.
No,
you're there to play the fucking parts
and be low,
smash the shit out of it.
Yeah.
But like, I think the main thing is just you all had the right fucking attitude.
Yeah.
Like,
it was fun.
If you don't have the right attitude, you're gonna fall the fuck apart when shit like that happens. And but you like of course it went fine. like what a fucking crew.
So not only did I get to play with Devin Townsend, I got to play Strapping Young Lad songs, which people that know me know that I'm a huge Strapping fan. I'm a massive Strapping fan. But I also got to sing backing vocals with Ishan for Jalar. So
yes.
So I got to do backing vocals with Ishan and play with Dev all in the same night with our computer tracks that didn't work, and me kicking over mic stands with beach balls, and I think someone was squirting me with a water gun. It might have had booze in it because it was real sticky. Yeah, squirt my $2,000 fucking Dingwall basses with your alcohol squirt gun. Yes, please.
And that's the fucking boat. Like, that kind of shit doesn't happen. And then like afterwards you could go and see the show, and then like go like whatever, go to the rock climbing wall or the water slide or whatever, and like the guy that you just saw on stage will like be there in like a polka dot swimsuit with a little towel. He's like going up the stairs to go on and you're just like, what the fuck? Like, you see Ishan, like, who's like just a really classy looking rock star, like very, very well put together. And then he's like beach Ishan, like, or whatever,
There was 2 places you were guaranteed to find me on technically 3. Pretty much 3 places you could find me on the boat. I was either at the bar, in the casino, at the pizza place, on the Matreon level, or I was in my room. That's literally but we only played 2 times, so it's like, we played 2 different venues on the boat. At any given moment, you probably could find me mainly at the casino bar.
That's funny.
Spending way too much money because no one told me about no alcohol packages.
Oh yeah, that kind of sucks. I mean, you'd think that for the bands that they would hook it up, but I guess
I had $100 credit that was gone within the first 15 minutes after our first show on the first day.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that's my bad. But honestly, that was kind of like a vacation for me as well. Like, we had just pretty much done 2 years straight of Bad Wolves touring. We had gone from a 15-seater van to like a shitty tour bus, and then a less shitty tour bus, and then a really good tour bus, and we were touring for almost 2 years straight at that point. And then there was NAMM after that. Excuse me. There was NAMM after the boat, so it was just like, and then we would go to Europe with Megadeth and Five Finger. So it's like I had this 4-day in between where I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I'm not gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna eat like shit. I'm gonna drink my face off. I'm gonna make sure that I am sober and able to play these 2 shows. But other than that, like, your boy is fucking going buck wild on this. Because I don't know, I felt like I was like, I gotta let loose. I'm on this fucking cruise ship, and I'm surrounded by all these awesome bands and people, and I got to meet a lot of people that I've known online for years, and have never been able to meet them in person until the boat. Like Sven from Aborted. Like, I've known Sven for like 18 years, and I didn't meet him until 2020.
Wow. Damn.
So,
well, the last, not this year, but was it the year before last year? Or, yeah, I think it was late. Oh no, it would have been 2 years ago, because it would have been, or 2 years before. Two fucking, what is it called?
2018
before 2018. Thank you. With aborted, I did purse shopping with aborted on the boat. So it was, everybody except one of the guitar players. So yeah, it was Sven and Mendel, who was in the band at the time, Ken Badine, who was very understated but was hilarious, and Stefano, the bass player. And I shot a video of them purse shopping on the boat at the purse store, and the woman who was there, the saleswoman, which of course like nobody goes in and buys anything on the, like, metalheads aren't going and buying purses, so she'd probably been there for the whole cruise just because they were paying her to be there, and she didn't have to do anything, stand there all day. And then in comes aborted with me, and I was like, have fun. And the video is fucking so stupid and really funny.
Oh,
but
I'm definitely gonna have
he's
to
just
check
like,
that out.
how many dead babies can I fit in this purse? Like
Jesus
that kind of shit.
Christ. Just really going for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely I had a really good time on the boat. I was hoping that after we did the 70,000 tons earlier this year, or as the names that Devin likes to call it, it's 70,000 tons of black T-shirts and 70,000 tons of cock. Because there's not a lot of females. I mean,
Not a lot of ladies.
There were more ladies than I was expecting there to be, but there is definitely the male to female ratio is like, if you were trying to repopulate the planet with the people that were only on 70,000 tons
Right.
of
If we
metal.
got on there and the world ended while we were out there,
Yeah.
and we had to keep going, it'd be
it would be a little off.
it's not a good ratio.
No. But I was really hoping that maybe it would be like a continual thing that Devin would go do the boat, and he would call me and Wes and Dirk, and because not a lot of shit happens in early January, so for the most part, most people's schedules are pretty open for that time. I think after Christmas and New Year's, tours don't really start until mid to late January, and then there's NAMM as well. So like that kind of time frame, like the first week of January, is like perfect timing to get pretty much any band out there. So I was like, ooh, maybe I'll get to do this again. But unfortunately, coronavirus pandemic issues have made that probably, I'm not going to say because they haven't announced it yet and I don't know anything about it, but it probably might have to be rescheduled to a later date or canceled. But I would definitely, I don't know if I would buy a ticket to 70,000 tons of metal.
Really?
But, it's pretty pricey.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
But
it's very expensive.
I would love to be invited back to play with any band on. Like I would play all 4 days, or 5 days, or I think it's 4 days of shows.
My understanding is that they don't have the same band on 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
So you probably wouldn't. Well, Devin wouldn't get invited to play.
Well,
this coming year.
I don't think Bad Wolves would fit on that. We would be more of a shiprocked
yes
type band, but
which did get canceled officially.
Yeah,
because it happens around the same time, I think.
Yeah, I think they're like a week apart. Imagine like doing both of those. Do you ever do that? Have you done that? Both of those?
No, I haven't been on Shiprocked.
Okay.
I
feel like there's
the
probably
same
more
reason
ladies
that
on
Bad
that,
Wolves
on
hasn't been
Shiprock.
on. Yeah, probably 70K is BYOB.
Bring your own babe.
Yes, babe. That's the B word I was using. But it's kind of like they, Gear Gods is more like true metal. Yeah. Not the kind that girls like. But I would like to go. My friend Leo was on Shiprocked, right? Yeah, Shiprocked. Leo Maracchioli.
Was he part of the cover
Frogly-
band?
Yes.
So he probably, because Doc did that in 2000. Was that 2018 or 2019? I don't remember, but he was part of the Stowaways, the cover band that was on the.
I think it was this year that he was it.
Nobody
Shit,
knows.
I don't remember.
I don't
I'd have to
even.
check.
I don't even fucking know where I was last week or even where I am right now.
It looked like so much fun, and I mean, like, can you really go wrong with a cruise or B a concert cruise for any kind of music? Like, I'll go on a fucking jazz cruise. I don't care. Like, it's so much fun. Like, there are cruises that are just cruises.
Yeah.
Like, I always think about that when I'm on 70K. I'm like, some people do this, but there's no bands that play except for, like, in the cocktail bar, there'll be, like, a piano guy.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Or some
know?
sort of show that is, like, or play or whatever that's in one of those, like the first dev set that we did was kind of like in a theater. And there was all these weird props and shit in the backstage area. So I was like, oh, maybe they have, like, plays or, whatever else. But one of my roommates actually works for a cruise liner, and I was like, yo, like, once this world opens up, I kind of want to take a cruise from Los Angeles to Alaska. And I think it's like 2 weeks or some shit, maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe 3 weeks. I don't remember. But I was just like, I mean, I know it wouldn't be like, 70 tons, and I would probably be one of the younger dudes that's an adult on the cruise ship. I'm like, that seems like it'd be probably pretty cool if you just wanted to relax. And then it's like, you don't even need to buy the Wi-Fi, so you just like, fuck you, everybody. I'm chilling by the pool.
World.
I'm drinking $25 cocktails at the bar and going to Alaska on this boat.
Yeah. I think to me that would be the ultimate way to relax, because like I said, like, if I'm going to relax, I'm going to need plenty of time. It's going to take me a week to get into a mode where I can fully relax.
Yeah.
And I have to cut myself off from the possibility of doing work.
Yeah. So you're not even allowed to bring your computer. I don't care. Not even for Netflix on the boat. You know what I mean?
I think, honestly, what I would probably do is bring my guitar and I would write some riffs.
Some boat riffs?
Some music. Boat riffs. It would, like, I'd get back and I'd have a whole album of, like Kenny Chesney, like, or what? Who's the guy that he's like the country version of? If you like pina coladas. Okay.
Now,
sorry,
you put me on the spot. So now that
I just demonetized your.
I don't really care.
Anyway, no, it'd all be like island jams, and I'd be like, oh, I used to be metal. What happened?
Trey X's Island Jams Adventure.
Be like,
Trey
cast aside your worries.
Would you have the Jamaican accent too?
I don't know.
I don't know if that's culturally
I don't know what I'd pick up. I went to Jamaica on one of the cruises. Actually, the first cruise that I went on was not 70K. It was.
You lied to me.
I forgot about this. I went on the one and only Axes and Anchors cruise.
I think I remember that.
It was a unfortunate kind of a failure. It was very undersold. So I think what happened was they were like, it was initially supposed to be this instrumental guitar thing, but I don't know if they just couldn't book any of the bigger names, like, they couldn't get Steve Vai or Satriani or whatever, and that would have been like the big draw.
Yeah.
Zach Wilde played. Was it Black? It was Black Label Society played.
Okay.
And of course, Zach is a guitar hero, but like,
you need to,
they were trying to go for this, thing. So they had a lot of, like, aside from Zach, they had kind of a lot of the B guitar heroes too. But I think then they waffled and tried to make it like, just tried to get the biggest name that they could. So they booked a bunch of butt rock bands, and they got the headliner was Breaking Benjamin, and so there was this weird like, Yngwie was there though. So they got Yngwie, who brought everything, his whole fucking wall of Marshall stacks.
Why?
Everybody else is playing through backline shit.
Yeah.
And Yngwie insisted to bring his whole wall. So they got Breaking Benjamin, which, like, Like, cool, yeah, that's great, but like half the people are there to see Shred, and then there was like Motionless in White played,
Oh,
and like it was a weird crowd. They undersold it by like half, and it was really too bad because I really liked the idea, and I had a great time.
Like G3 on a boat. Like I think that would be really cool if they were able to get like, like Zach, Nuno Betancourt, Tosin Abasi, Herman Lee, a lot of the big names, and then they can do solo sets, and kind of like how they've done it before, where it's kind of like the same backing band, and then they have like solo sets, and then like collaborative
like Generation
jams.
Axe.
Yeah. If they did like Generation Axe, but on a boat,
cruise?
but then can solidify those people, I think probably would have done better. But yeah, then they kind of like realized that they couldn't get whoever they wanted, maybe some of the artists that they wanted, and then they're like, yo, we really got to figure something out, boys. Let's get Breaking Benjamin and Motionless in White, which are both great bands. I'm friends with both of those guys in that band. But yeah, having it half undersold. I mean, I know 70K, it wasn't sold out on this year, but I know
it sells out every year. It was sold out.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it was sold out.
It sells out. Like they have to have like a whole system, because otherwise people snatch them up like
oh shit.
It always sells out, and they they moved it 2 or 3 years ago to a bigger boat. It used to be on a smaller boat, and it
I
still
couldn't
sells
imagine
out
that.
like crazy.
I couldn't imagine that being on a smaller boat, because that like second night in the casino area, like that shit's pumping, like it's you don't really get to see, like, unless you go from like upstairs on the deck to like the theater and then to the smaller club downstairs, you don't really get to see like how, like, I did that one night. I was running around watching as many shows as I could. I was like, there's a lot of motherfuckers here. I didn't know how many people it was, but I'm like, there's a lot of people. 60 bands. Like,
yeah. And they all play twice.
Yeah. So 120 shows. Do those shows run 24 hours a day? Or is there like a stopping time?
They go until like 4 or 5 in the morning, and then start up again at like noon. So there's only that little break in between there.
Jesus. But so it's is it 3 or 4 venues? 3?
It's 4.
Damn. So 4 venues, 60 bands, 120 shows, 3,000 to 4,000 fucking guests. Jesus, that's crazy. I just noticed that I think me and you have the exact same chair. This is completely off topic.
We do. The secret lab is yours, the Omega?
I actually have the Titan.
I might also have the Titan. I actually don't remember.
It looks like mine.
Oh, it is the Titan. There's a T.
Yeah, there's a T right there.
That's hilarious. No, wait. Is Omega the... No, wait.
Omega's the smaller one.
Omega's this... Oh, okay, yeah. I got the big one because I'm a big boy.
Yeah, same.
Mainly because I have no junk in the trunk. I need a big cushion for my... and I'm sitting on a pillow.
Oh, you got the pillow too?
Yeah, just a regular pillow.
Oh, it's just a regular ass pillow.
I mean, I sit here a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense. You have like a own room in your place that's dedicated. You got the Gear Gods thing behind you, and and then I already know to your right there's massive EVH amplifier or a Rev. I'm sorry, Rev.
Yeah, my big old stack of Rev.
Yeah.
Of which there are speakers in one cab. The rest of them I use for storage. It's a set.
Actually,
I just need to get some new speakers. I haven't decided what kind of speakers I'm gonna put in them yet. But yeah, and I'm in a garage right now. This is
shit.
a corner of a garage that I rent. So, I mean, my house is like on the other side of this wall, 10 feet that way.
Mm-hmm.
But oh shit, where are we going with that? Yes, so I have to make myself as comfortable as possible.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty chilly in here right now. I've got I'm doing all right because I got a heat dish. I actually just figured this out, that I have my heat dish, which is like crazy directional and super hot. And so you're either like freezing or melting, you know.
Yeah.
But right now it's pointed right at the back of the chair, and I'm feeling it like through, like I'm
The
warming
leather?
through my core. Hot leather. I hope I'm not like warping my poor chair.
Your poor expensive chair.
We won't be twins anymore. Mine will be the melted like.
I'm in a secret lab. Yeah.
It'll be like
And
the
yours-
movie twins, not actual twins.
Yes. Yeah. And I'll be Danny DeVito.
Actually, I'm not sure how much of it makes it to our records, but most of our pre-production guitar tracks are actually done with a Rev Generator 120 into a 2-notes with a custom IR.
It's the greatest amp ever made.
I love it.
Time.
I love it. I was looking at buying one, and I'm like, oh, it's like fucking $4,000.
It's not quite that much.
It's $3,000, isn't it?
It's about $3,000, yeah.
Yeah.
But is it Doc that has one?
No, so we write songs with one of our. He's like the unofficial 6th member of Bad Wolves, and he kind of does. Mm-hmm. He takes riffs from like John and when Doc and Chris do songs, they just do stuff through their Kemper. But when John's writing songs with our buddy Max, he has the Generator 120.
Is it Max Martin? You're writing songs with Max Martin who also writes songs for Taylor Swift?
No, it's not. It's not.
Well, you're fucking up.
It's Max Karen. He was actually on the boat as well. He plays guitar for Once Human.
Oh, yes, that's cool.
Yeah.
Once Human is awesome. I got to hang out with them a little bit.
And I bug Max all the time for like production questions and I remember when he first got the Rev 120 and we were doing some scratch tracks and he sent it to me. I'm like, what the fuck are you playing?
It's so good. So mine has been with like the guy who's producing our album for pretty much the whole year because it was in the studio where we recorded.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did the same thing. I tracked everything on it. And then the final tone is like he like reamped through that plus a 5150 and like I guess blended them somehow. I don't know. It turned out fucking great, but like it's just perfect. Like the fucking sound is just the thing is it's not just that it's good because there's a lot of great sounding amps out there.
Yeah.
But so many of them are just like modified 5150, a modified Marshall, like a fancy like a take on an older amp, but the Rev is completely original design from the ground up.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing and it's unique.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I gravitated towards it right away. Plus they are super fucking cool dudes. I actually worked for them for a little while doing like some social media and all kinds of random shit. And they're super great dudes. And just yesterday they announced the Mark III of the Generator 120 because the one I have is the Mark II. Anyway, long story short, I have been desperately missing my 120. Although I have the
you have the little baby guy back there.
I have the little one, the G20, which it's incredibly sick. Like it's ridiculous that it's 20 watts and it's like, this fucking big and it sounds that good. I've been using it in a bunch of videos. All the Amazon Basics videos, I've been using that and the D20, which is like the clean, super clean pedal platform one.
Yeah. Actually, because of those videos that you did for the Seymour Duncan power amp, I was like, oh, okay. So if I do actually want to run a cab, like I wouldn't mind. And I also talked to Simon Grove from Pliny.
Oh, yeah.
He loves those. And I was like, oh, okay. I wouldn't actually mind running one of those if I wanted to plug, if I wanted to do the Quad Cortex or whatever I choose into a cabinet. I was like, oh, okay.
I'd be really curious to know how it works for bass because when I did those videos, I got hounded with questions. Can I use this for bass? Can I use this for bass?
Simon does. He plugs his Helix into it and runs it into an Ampeg SVT A10.
That's so great. I think, I don't own a bass cab, so I wasn't able to test it.
You can borrow one of mine.
I have a very small one. And it's, because, the main thing about bass is you just need a lot more power than a guitar amp. Just to really drive that low end, it takes just so much more. And
you're around LA, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in Glendale.
Yeah. I'm in North Hollywood.
You live in Hollywood, right? Yeah.
So you ever want a bass cab? Let me know. I got 2 810s and I got 2 410s and I got 2 12s.
You got every back ruiner that exists of all the different kinds. Yeah, I'd be really curious to know if you try it out. Because I thought they were super great on guitar. I really love them. And I was curious if you'd probably have to use the larger one if you wanted to get any serious volume. But like, I don't know, that even just the little one, the 170 is like pretty fucking loud, at least for guitar.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one Simon uses.
Now that you mention it, I remember seeing it in his rig when Pliny was here and played at I think the El Rey or something.
Yeah.
And he definitely plays the big with a 700.
The Big Daddy.
Big Daddy. Because it's 700 watts per side.
Yeah.
So it's actually, I mean, I don't know if you can bridge it.
I wouldn't want
I don't know, but you could run 2 things at 700 watts.
That's way more power than you would ever need, you know? It doesn't matter if you're playing, like you said, your local watering hole or, the Bridgestone Center in Nashville,
Yeah.
That's way more power than you will ever need.
God, speaking of things I miss from 2020, or I missed in 2020, I go to Nashville every year for Summer NAMM, allegedly for Summer NAMM, to eat barbecue. I go to eat barbecue, and I also go to Summer NAMM. And it's, oh boy, I missed it so badly this year.
I've never been to a Summer NAMM ever.
Really?
I think I might like it more.
It's the best. It's so laid back and chill. Like, Winter NAMM, you run to things.
Yeah.
You talk to somebody for 4 seconds, and then you run to something else. Well, I run because I'm trying to film everything.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love Summer NAMM because you go to a booth, you talk to somebody for an hour, just hang out,
chill,
try everything for real.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as loud. It's much smaller. It's it's southern. So you have a nice southern time. Oh, honey, you want some sweet tea while you try that there bass amp? We're gonna have. That's an absolute exaggeration, but it is it is really cool.
Get some Hattie B's while you're down there too.
Oh yeah. I am all about oh God, what is the name of the place? It's my favorite. Edley's. I love, probably my number 1 favorite food of all time is the loaded fries from Edley's.
I don't think I've been to Edley's. I'll have to do that the next time we're in Nashville.
Yeah. It's just my personal favorite. A lot of people like the other ones better, but I love everything about it. I love ribs are my main usual favorite food.
Pork or beef?
They're ones that I can get. Pork. Baby back all the way. Yeah.
I'm a dinosaur rib guy.
Baby back.
Dude, actually, you know what's super funny? I was in a band. The original drummer of the Faceless. Well, I wouldn't know if he was original drummer, but one of the first drummers of the Faceless is Brett Batdorf. And I was in a band with Brett Batdorf and his twin brother, Matt Batdorf. And their dad, John Batdorf.
You're telling me Brett and Matt Batdorf was the... Okay, I'm following.
Their dad, John Batdorf, actually wrote the Chili's Baby Back Ribs song. He was making fun of him one time about the Baby Back Rib song. And he's like, well, Matt, it paid for this kitchen.
Holy shit.
Yeah. He wrote the Chili's Baby Back Rib song. He wrote the Darkwing Duck song theme song. Tom and Jerry Kids. And then he wrote the Durango Doug song that featured in one of the episodes of the animated show Doug. Durango Doug. Durango
I don't know.
Doug.
I don't remember that one, but I watched a lot of Doug as a child.
He didn't write that one. That one probably would have gotten a little bit more.
Fuck, that brings me back. Yeah, if you wrote that one, he'd have a much bigger kitchen.
Yeah.
Man, I can tell you though, that's a gig that I want to get. Like, so writing songs is my main thing. Like, we're 95 minutes into this podcast and we're finally talking about music. Not that it matters. I mean, whatever. It doesn't have to be about anything in particular. But like, I just love to write music, and I don't necessarily really give a shit what kind of music it is,
Yeah.
Like, I write metal because that's mostly what I know, and I do love that. But, I have my stream where I write all kinds of crazy shit. Like,
you're on the Twitches.
I'm on the Twitch. It's Gear Gods Official if you want to watch me Twitch. I think it is absolutely incredibly boring to watch me, but basically, like once a week, I'll sit down on Sundays and I'll start from nothing and just create usually most of a whole song. And it's cool because, you know, like just this like incremental building of this thing, and you get to watch the whole process if that's something that you're into. But that, like, I love the process of doing it, you know, and I love a challenge of that kind of thing. And I would kill to write a fucking jingle. I would, if somebody hired me to write a jingle, Arrowhead, sparkling water, flavor just a bit, like whatever. Like, I don't give a shit. I'll write any old thing and be a happy boy, because I think a lot of people are very precious about their songwriting, you know?
Yeah.
Like you just said, like you guys work with an outside songwriter. You're working together on this stuff. I know. I think Doc also worked with Sahaj on something. I don't remember if it was Bad Wolves related, but
I don't know.
I don't know. I just I might be crazy. Maybe it was for. Oh, god damn it! I'm such a fucking idiot. So it was the Maytal Cohen album. So it was the other way around, because Sahaj produced it and was writing a lot of the songs and brought in some outside songwriters for that.
Yeah.
And I actually wrote a riff that wound up turning into a song on the Maytal album.
Okay.
So me and Doc have credits on the same album, even though we were never in the same room at the same time.
It's funny, like Doc gets a lot of writing. I know he's done some writing for Josta's solo band.
Mm-hmm.
I know he wrote some stuff for fucking
Body Count.
That's all. I don't know why I was like, it's not Public Enemy. What's the other one? He wrote some stuff for Body Count. You know, he's wrote some stuff for Maytal. And it's funny because when I hear those songs, because I've known Doc since like 2009, I hear those songs, I'm like, oh, that's the coil riff right there, you know? Like he definitely has his own flavor, and that's something I've been trying to get into more, because when I wrote probably 30 ideas for the third Bad Wolves record that we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they're not great. I got one riff in one song, so we'll have to see if it makes it to the record. But I've been trying to get more into songwriting and song structures, because being not, I guess, classically trained in playing guitar or bass, or even songwriting for that matter, I tend to kind of, I don't know, either something goes on too long, not long enough, it doesn't fit. I'm not really great at writing song structures.
Mm-hmm.
So with the time off that we've had, you know, I've upgraded my studio. My studio is my home bedroom.
I see a Native Instruments keyboard to your left. Is that Native Instruments?
Yes, it is. It's the Complete Control 48.
I have the 25 key one, and that is outrageous and stupid that I could see this much of it and know that. And
it's great.
That's
I love it.
That's why I get to have this sign. But yeah, it's you got to have that kind of shit.
Well,
and
I mean, like I have
you know?
I have the Apogee Duet, and then honestly, I don't give a fuck when anybody says this little son of a bitch. The Rupert Neve RMDI. Like, I love this thing.
What has somebody spoken ill of it?
They said like, oh, I can't hear the difference. I'm like, well, you know, I have the preamp inside the Duet, which I wanted the Apogee preamp, but I wanted the Neve transformer that's inside this.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, if it came down to it, my DI tracks that I've sent to our producer, or if I've done stuff, with Max, he said that my DI is good enough to put on a record. So at least I'm like, okay, I know that my signal chain is at least good enough to be
good quality. Yeah.
Yeah.
And these days, like how often is somebody tracking guitar amp sounds rather than a DI and then reamping it later? Like some people do that, but it's pretty rare. And either way, it's pretty likely that you're taking a DI. So the main thing that you have to worry about when you're tracking is getting a really good quality DI. And so if you cheap out on the fucking DI box, the whole sound is going to suffer. Like, so it's good. Yeah, that's, if your producer's telling you that, then fuck yeah. Like,
Well, and also because for the longest time, I don't even know how long I had the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2.
Yep.
And I remember when I switched from the 2i2 to the Apogee Duet, I was like, holy shit. Like, it was literally night and day for me anyway. Some people say that they can't tell the difference, but I really could, because I even did like a sample of DIs, and just the clarity in the low end. Because I mean, dude, there's some songs on the new record that are fucking tuned to drop E, you know? So having that clarity, especially in the low end, that's where I'm really noticing, you know, where the RNDI and the Apogee really come into play, is when you're getting into fucking drop Z territory like we are. Our standard tuning is open G. So
really open G.
Yeah, so
on a 7-string?
GC. So it's the Devin Townsend tuning pretty much. I think it's
Wow.
GC, GCG, CGF or something. I don't remember.
Yeah. I didn't know that. That's cool.
So when I would record low tuned stuff on the Focusrite, now it might work for Misha and those guys, but when I'm recording super low tuned active bass, there was no way I couldn't peak the Focusrite. It was just always like I'd literally have to turn it down almost all the way, but then I'd have no signal. I would no signal whatsoever.
The original Focusrite Scarlets had a problem. Like that was a major problem. Like they literally were not. They were too hot. There was no way to not.
I think I probably have one of those then because
they fixed that later on. The recent ones are.
And I get a recall.
Supposedly a lot better.
What the fuck? You know, when my
know.
airbag doesn't work in my car, they let me know. They send me a recall notice. Like,
that's true. Although nobody's gonna die from a shitty DI.
you never know.
Where is the regulation? Where was the government in all of this? You're right, though. It's kind of bullshit. That they would.
So yeah, and when I switched over, and then of course everybody in my band got a Universal Audio one, and I was like, God, everybody got the UI or the UA, and I was picking between the Universal Audio Aero and the Apogee Duet, and I had asked a few producers and I asked a few audiophiles, and they were like, all right, if you want the one that sounds better is the Apogee, but the one that comes with more shit that is useful is the Universal Audio. But he's like, if you really want to be nitpicky, they're not that different. But it's, if you put them head to head, in my opinion, I had heard, you know, from other sources, they're like, I think the Apogee sounds better. So I was like, okay, I'll get the Apogee. I mean,
there you go. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
If you're smart enough, and I mean, I guess this has really nothing to do with smarts, but if you're crafty enough, I use MacBook and stuff like, so I'm using Logic as well. Like, you can get pretty far with certain Logic plugins. I mean, the Alchemy plugin for synths and stuff, like, you can get pretty close. Because I've been doing a lot of like the songs that I've been writing. I decided I got burned out on writing metal riffs and low tuned guitars. So I've been doing a lot of synth stuff. You know, like fucking riding a Ferrari fucking Lamborghini Testarossa in the desert at night with the top down, fucking 80s shit. So I've been
like
writing.
Myron.
What was that?
Do you know Myron?
No, I don't.
The music of Myron? Oh, bro, you just described it. You're gonna love it.
All right,
I'll send it to you later.
Yeah, send it to me. But, you know, I've been listening to stuff like, you know, Dance with the Dead, a lot of the newer Weekend stuff. What's that fucking Scandroid? I've been listening to him. Midnight Danger, Von Kaiser, you know, a lot of the synthwave bands, FM84, stuff like that. And for some reason, I was just like, how am I just like figuring this out in the last year is when I've discovered synthwave. And I'm not gonna lie, I was definitely one of those guys who was just like, you know, electronic music has no fucking soul. And then I'm like, I actually kind of like electronic music a little bit more now than metal guitars. So, yeah, I've been plucking around with Alchemy on Logic, and I've been able to get some pretty decent tones.
You know, people that whole thing like grew out of like the attitude was basically super fucking ignorant rock and roll dudes who were afraid of being replaced
Yeah.
by synthesizers. But when you sit down and play with a synth for a little while, especially like a real ass analog synth,
Yeah.
which I am not proficient in, but I don't have it out here anymore. But like I got one of the Behringer the Model D, which is like a Mini Moog
Okay.
clone,
Yeah.
and it's $300
Ooh.
rather than like a real Mini Moog is like $3,000. Okay, like so for a tenth of the price, you get 97% of the same sound.
Yeah.
And you start playing with it and start learning about it, and you realize that like a synth is actually the ultimate instrument. Like, whereas a guitar, a bass, a piano, like they're beautiful, wonderful things, but they're extremely limited. Like you can't control that many parameters of how a guitar is going to sound.
Yeah.
A synthesizer, not a sample library or a sampler or something that's meant to sound like a fake
But a
version
real
of something
real
else.
synthesizer.
But a synthesizer, a real synthesizer that starts with, like oscillators and then you manipulate it with all these different things. Like it's so outrageously powerful and unique, and like that you start to like kind of start to flip the other way, that you're just like, man, all these other instruments are kind of like limited and old-fashioned seeming, even though like we think of the sound of synthesizers being like super like 80s and that's because like for a while they thought that they could replace the orchestra with synthesizers in movies.
Yeah.
And so people were using them to try to imitate like a sound of a symphony, but that's not really what it is, Yeah. Instead, it's like its own beautiful, crazy powerful thing, and it's a bottomless rabbit hole. Like,
trust me, dude.
Like I have very, very intentionally withheld myself from going too far down because I have some friends who are like starting to get into like modular synths, and then it's all over. That's your whole bank account. You're fucking done. Like,
I don't want to get that far. I want to get to the point where there's like the Yamaha DX7. I'd love to have one of those. I would love to have like a OBX or OX7 or something. And there's probably like four like real synthesizers I would love to have, but finding any of those, like if I just wanted those 4 synths and I got the real ones, it would be like $10,000. I don't want to go the modular route though. I mean, I know a guy who he was the A&R for Callium Strings for a while, Chris Cardone.
Oh yeah,
he has
C3.
Yeah,
Guitario. I love that guy.
He has Luigi's modular now.
Yeah, I've seen that a bit.
And I definitely don't want to get into that rabbit hole, but I would definitely. There's actually a synth place I could probably throw a rock to it, right by my house called Custom. I just said cut.
You just said
cunt. Custom.
It's called Cunt.
Yeah, it's
You've
called
heard
Cunt.
of it?
Which is funny because it's the owner is Australian. Custom Vintage Keyboards is like right down the street from my house, and unfortunately because of COVID-19, they don't allow anyone to come into the showroom right now. But like you walk into that showroom and it's just wall to wall, floor to ceiling, like everything you'd ever want in an analog synthesizer. And I mean, it is really a very deep rabbit hole because I've been wanting to go with some plugins that were more workflow positive, because when you get into Alchemy, I'm really sitting there and like tweaking stuff for, I mean, sometimes it could take me 30-40 fucking minutes just to get a bass or a pad or a lead that I want, and then I completely forget the idea that I had to begin with, or so I would have to like figure it out on something that's like, that's not really what I want, but here's the initial idea, let me find the sound for it. So I've been looking into I'm gonna wait for the Black Friday sale for the Arturis, because they have I think it's like the collection. It's like the Synth Collection 7 or something, and it's all those, and it's actual. It's not like built. How did someone describe this? It's actual samples of the synths. It's not like trying to sound like it. It's the actual synthesizer. So I've heard Arturis has some really, really, really good stuff, and I've actually used a few of their samples. Finding tones, I was like, oh, this is exactly what I want, And they also obviously have a preset drag down, but you can also just have the keyboard as it would be if it was right in front of you, and it has all the exact same knobs. It's just in your digital workstation, as opposed to an entire wall of synthesizers.
Yeah. It's what helped me a lot is like understanding. I say understanding. I don't really understand.
Does anybody understand synths?
Starting to. Some people do. Actually, one of my really good friends, Rob Rosen, who runs Rosen Sound, is the one of the maybe the biggest synth repair guy in the LA area at this point.
You have Ken Rich, you have Custom Vintage. Yes. I've never heard of Rob Rosen.
You should check it out. It's the same like you just described, the wall to wall crazy shit. He fixes Bruno Mars's synths and Skrillex, and he did a whole set of Chrome synthesizers for Chromeo. Chromed all of Chromeo's synthesizers.
I've seen those, yeah.
And he's really good friends with Ken Rich too. He talks about Ken a lot. So anyway, he understands synths. So if I have a question, I always ask him. His place is great. He's also got a whole recording studio.
Oh shit.
Decked out with synths, dedicated to synths, and you can go and like rent time in there, and it's all like integrated. Fucking wild. Really, really cool. Anyway, so yeah, but just understanding like a little tiny bit of how the synthesis actually works. And because before, I was so used to like a regular old keyboard that just has some presets and you can change effects and stuff, but you can't really change it,
Yeah.
But like I had to start understanding that there's like 2 oscillators, 3 oscillators, whatever. Those are the things that make the sound. That creates the sound
that's what
wave.
I need to figure out.
All this other stuff. You're combining those oscillators, those actual tones. You're combining them, and different waves are going to interact differently and do weird like phase things and something called cross modulating. And it's like this weird alive thing. It's like almost like a creature that does these weird things, and then this other part changes those sounds. Like you fuck with it, it changes what it.
That's what I really need to get
the ADSR
into.
And all this stuff. And like I still definitely do not really understand it, but just actually I watched the website Masterclass.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got a pass to that. I bought earlier this year, and there's a deadmau5 one. And the way that he explains synthesizers, especially the modular ones, I was like, oh, like just made it really simple and easy to understand.
Yeah,
because he's like just really very straightforward. After seeing these walls of modular synths and being like, how the fuck could you ever get a sound, does it have to go from here to there and go through all this? You got to change no, it's way simpler than that. Actually, modular synths are more simple than an all-in-one synth like the Minimoog, because you'll have one of those units will be like an oscillator, and then another one will be like ADSR, and then another one will be like a delay, and you have to physically patch them from one to the next.
Yeah.
So it's only what you patch from where to where that's going to do those things.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
Actually,
so you just pick them as you're going.
Yeah, so I remember when I joined the band Scar the Martyr, all the keys and stuff were done by Chris Vrenna, who was in 9 Inch Nails.
Oh, wow.
And so we had this guy Joey Blush, who's a New York EDM artist, who we hired to do a couple tours with us. And I remember, like, he had all these controllers, but all of his sounds were coming from this. It looked like it was just like a little cabinet that he kept to his side, and it was all of his like he brought his modulars on tour with him. And I was I just saw the cables, and I was like, nope, I don't want anything to do with that. Like, I feel like I'm plugging into like an old timey, like, operator, could you please direct me to Mr. whatever's house, you know?
Hold, please.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't know what any of that shit is, but it does make sense that it's actually a lot easier than like your all-inclusive synthesizers, because you can kind of pick what you want. And if you're just doing it slowly, you could be like, oh, this oscillator does this, and be like, oh, well, this oscillator does this. Oh, this does this. Because that's one thing I have no knowledge about whatsoever, is how oscillators and all that stuff work. I'm just like, oh, I see a triangle, I see a saw, I see a square, you know, like,
Yep.
I kind of know what those should sound like, but all the rest of the other stuff, I'm just like, oh, I don't know what this LFO, I don't know what any of this stuff is, because when it comes to learning these synthesizers, honestly, I have no idea where to start, other than I want it to sound like this. And there are a couple people who I'll hit up and be like, hey, what's this? How can I get that sound? And they're like, oh, okay, it's this, this, and this. And they'll send me settings, or they'll do whatever. And I'll be like, oh, okay, that's what that is. But I don't actually understand how to get those sounds. So maybe I should, kind of look and do some videos.
I think, honestly, the best thing to do is to do something like I said, like buy one of the Behringer one. I mean, I don't like giving business to Behringer because the guy who owns the company is absolutely fucking insane. And anyway, but if you don't want to spend a lot of money,
yeah,
the Model D that I have is outrageously good and super fun and pretty simple. And like even just dicking around with it is going to get you pretty far. Like, watch a couple YouTube videos. And like, once you start to get an understanding of the signal flow inside the thing, and like those concepts that I was talking about, you'll start to go like, oh, I know what it is that I'm hearing in my head.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it has a very slow attack and a fast release or whatever, and it's got a, like, I need to turn this oscillator up an octave.
Yeah.
I need to, if I have a triangle wave and a square wave, they're going to cross modulate like this, and I'm going to get this kind of a sound. And like I said, still don't, like, I'm saying all of these things as if I can really do that, and I can't. It's more like I understand now that that's what I need to do to get that understanding of it. And actually, the thing that I have been using the most is a free, basically a mini Moog that comes in Pro Tools 2020 or whatever. It's made by AIR. I can't remember what the fuck it's called.
I have this is a free one, and it's a Oberheim plugin that you can use as a standalone or in any of your DAWs. It's the OBXD, and it's free. And
it's free. Who makes it? It's made by Oberheim?
No. I don't know who makes it, but if you look up OB-XD, they suggest you do a donation.
Oh,
but
wow. I love a suggested donation.
But you can get it for free, and I'm really into the Oberheim sound right now. I don't know, just 'cause fucking Van Halen and a lot of, but it's a really great free app, and the interface is pretty close to what you would be working with on one of those synthesizers, and it has all of the oscillators, and it has all the other stuff in there, so it can I just haven't really dived deep into it. I just kind of go through the presets like, oh, this sounds like a cool bass.
But what's an advantage of learning like that is that even though a virtual synthesizer will never be quite as good as the real deal, you get a real one, it doesn't come with any presets that you can start from.
Yeah.
like a virtual one will come with a bunch of presets, and I find that I learn a lot from presets because like I don't need to know everything, but if I know some basic settings to get like a good lead sound, for melodies and what it takes to make a good sounding bass, like the general idea, like attack, the ADSR kind of settings to get a basic kind of sound. They have like what's called the Reese bass or whatever. Like if I understand that and I can see it when I pull up the plugin, oh, it's got this, and this, or the preset, then I go, oh, okay, cool. Well, let's I like this, but I want a little bit more sustain out of it. I want a little bit more something, and then you tweak it from there, and then you start to understand it better. Whereas if you get the real one, you can't save. The way that you save settings is by taking a picture. That's how I do it, and then they're lost forever, really, because I'm not going to go all the way through all my pictures. But the so I don't know. I think it's so cool and fascinating, especially because if I hear rock music made by a band, guitar, bass, drums, vocals, 99.9% of the time I can tell you exactly what's happening when I'm listening to it. Like I'm not a good drummer, but I could sit there and transcribe it. I can give you like a pretty good understanding, a pretty good idea of what's going on. I could be like, okay, this is like, a distorted guitar with a flanger on it or whatever.
Yeah.
When I listen to EDM, I have next to no goddamn idea what's going on. Like, I'm just like, this sounds cool, and somebody sat there and tweaked a synth of some kind to get this sound, and no one's ever heard it before, and you'd probably be very hard-pressed to get exactly that sound ever again.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting and unique to me. So, I went to music school. I have a music degree. I took ear training classes, and I can't turn it off.
Once you turn it on,
there's no going back. Like, you can't close that door again. Like, I hear chord progressions going by, and I'm like, that's a Lydian mode. That's a 4-chord. That's the that's a harmonic minor or whatever. Like, and it's like that's cool and it's really useful, especially as a songwriter, because I can yoink stuff. I can yoink ideas and like be like, oh, that's a really interesting chord progression, whatever. But I can't tell you shit about what sounds I'm hearing when it comes to electronically produced music. And
but I really like that, though, because I feel like, you can kind of get like a basis of something that you want, and then you can tweak it just enough to where it's just like, oh, that's like my sound. And you can use, quote unquote, your sound as much as you want. And, I think it's more personal. Because I mean, you can get your sound on guitar or bass or whatever, but to the untrained ear, they might not be able to tell the difference between like, oh, this is my bass tone, or like, oh, this is somebody else's bass tone. They might not be able to hear the subtle differences or the tonal qualities. But with synthesizers,
it won't be outrageously different.
Yeah, but with synthesizers, it's a lot. That's audibly different than like, oh, this is kind of like this, but then I tweak this, and this, and now it's, something audibly completely different than what you started with.
Yeah. And there's also basically infinite bandwidth. Like you can, so if you're using a proper analog synth, okay, any knob is continuous versus like discrete. Okay, if you're using anything digital, you're looking at ones and zeros. Okay, so it's, even if it's not notched or something, it's not an analog continuous change from 0 to 10. Okay, on an analog synthesizer or an analog pedal or whatever, it's hypothetically a continuous analog change, which means from 0 to 100 or 10 or whatever, there's actually an infinite amount of variation, because any point, there isn't a point on any of them. It's just a continuous amount of change, right? And then you combine that one parameter with a second parameter of continuous infinite change, any combination of those two things, there's already like practically an infinite amount of different combinations of different places you could have those two knobs.
Yeah.
And then that's just two knobs, right?
Yeah.
And then like times however many waveforms there are, 6,
Yeah.
combining two different oscillators like that, just combining two different oscillators, right?
Yeah.
With two different waveforms in different variations, different octaves, and then all the different things you can do. You could find your own sound. It's like what is it? No Man's Sky, right?
Yeah.
Perpetually generated infinite universes, like
But with synthesizers.
but with sound, and so you could find your own sound and take a fucking picture when you get there. Okay?
Jesus.
Because you could find your sound. You could in 4 minutes find a sound on a synthesizer that no one has ever heard in the history of time and will never find again if you don't take a goddamn picture. And it could be yours. You could be like, this is the one. Now, if it's whether or not it's gonna be any good,
Yeah.
is
And
another
honestly,
story.
even if you take a picture, if you're a C hair off on any of those knobs, it's not going to sound the same whatsoever. So it's like you kind of need to like mark it on the actual keyboard itself.
Yeah. And like, you gotta, like, an analog synth, you gotta tune the thing. Like,
oh, I know, and that's one thing that used to drive me crazy when I was in Scar the Martyr, is that like the keyboard player, he'd be like, oh yeah, the synth's out of tune. I'm like, how the fuck is a synth out of tune? How does that make sense?
some of the older ones, you have to tune every key, like every note on the keyboard.
And
like
he would be
really
doing
old
that
ones.
in real time. I'm like, bro.
Yeah, the like Mini Moog, it's one tuner per oscillator, and like I think if it's like it has to do with the weather and shit. I mean, whatever.
I was like,
guitar's got
I
its
thought
own
the reason why
similar
keyboards were
problems.
there, so you don't have to tune them like a guitar. But it's like even most guitars I have stay in better tune than some of those fucking analog synths. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. But yeah. So like that's really cool. And personally, the addition of keyboards to a rock metal band sound is, I think, part of the way to get a really unique sound these days. Because the level of production that we have hit is outrageous. You can get amazing sounding shit comparatively very easily, okay? You can it's sort of down to a science, to be honest, like good quality production. Like we're like really getting there isn't a huge amount of variation anymore because they figured out what sounds awesome for heavy music. But using synthesizers, sampled sounds, like I have a huge library of sample libraries at this point, and I love them because you can find really unique stuff. That's really where the unique part is starting to come in. And I think a lot of dudes who are like metal guys, they're like, oh, synthesizers, oh man, like, but
I was
there's
one of
only-
those guys. I was a metal elitist when I was in high school. Death metal or nothing.
you get, it's fine. Everybody has to start somewhere and grow. But like I think I see a lot of bands integrating this kind of stuff as they move forward, because if it's just guitar, bass, drums, and vocals, there's only kind of so much unique original sound that you can have. I mean, there's kind of a lot, but if you're playing heavy music, I think it's actually a much smaller variation.
Yeah.
So, and if you don't do that, a lot of guys are just getting into these wild big pedal boards with effects and stuff, and it's kind of trying to achieve a similar thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think you can really get a much more unique and original addition to your band by doing that kind of thing, by having a cool new thing, like finding some unique sample.
Yeah.
Like I wrote a song. I did like a little score for a cutscene from a video. I wasn't hired to do this. I just did it for practice, basically.
Yeah.
And I found this like free sample library of a sound, and I don't even remember what it was, but something really weird, like something you probably find in like a thrift store, like one of those kind of shitty instruments. But it just fit perfectly. It sounded really cool, and it gave the whole thing a very unique flair. And like, you're not really gonna find that on guitar. I don't know. Like, guitar's my primary instrument. I love it so much. I've been playing guitar for like 24 years.
Yeah.
And
well, same with bass, dude. Like, I started playing guitar when I was 10 years old. I'm 34 now. I've been playing bass since I was, actually playing bass since I was 18. But honestly, like, I know, for the most part, for me, I know what I need to get my tone for pretty much any situation, and I know a lot of, bass elitists out there. Like, if you're playing in a metal band and you're in a band with 2 guitar players, in my opinion, the place that I fit in the best in my band, or when I did with Devin Townsend, is if I do scoop the mids, because I am the bass player. You want to have that, higher 5.5 clank, and you want to be in there around the 100. Once you start getting into like 250, it starts getting muddy. Once you get into, certain parts of 500 or 750, like, that's not part of my tone. That's not where my bass lives, because when you're in a band with low-tuned guitars, that's kind of like the area that they shine the most at. So there's a lot of bass elitists out there that are like, oh, don't scoop the mids. I'm like, I was a don't scoop the mids guy for a long time, and my front of house guy, when I was with Vimic, was just like, you guys are all living in the same fucking frequency. I can't tell you guys apart. So I just decided to, move some stuff down, and I was taking constructive criticism from my peers, and I was like, okay, well, for low tuned, especially when you're doing, drop E, F sharp, and I'm actually keeping the octave relationship between the bass and the guitar. So if I'm tuning down to F sharp as opposed to tuning up, or if I'm tuning down to drop E as opposed to staying standard, and I'm keeping that octave relationship between these instruments, where I fit best is if I scoop those mids. Now, when you're tuning that low to begin with, 250 is literally I don't care if you tune to fucking standard. 250 is a fucking ugly frequency, in my opinion. Like, I'm cool with 500. I'm cool with 750. But like, for some reason, 250 is just like if it had a face, I would punch it.
Yeah, well, it takes a while to identify that kind of stuff. It takes a lot of time, a lot of experimentation, and like you're saying, like, listening to outside people who are like,
you would sound better if you did this. And because it doesn't take me a long time to figure out, like, depending on the gear that I'm using, what tone that I need to achieve to do my job in the band. Like, it's kind of like, it's easy for me now. But when I go to the synthesizer, I'm like, there is literally it's like a whole other galaxy when it comes to, like, I'm picking out songs like, oh, did you hear that bass? Like, and it feels like the bass is a lot more of a predominant instrument in electronic music than it is for, say, rock or metal. I mean, obviously there's certain bands that have bass heavy songs, or there's bass heavy groups, but it's not like hip hop or electronica or anything like that. Yeah. Where, like, that's literally where the groove is in a lot of the electronic style music, rap, hip hop, EDM, synthwave, synth pop, whatever. It's very, very bass driven, and the melody is just there to give it a little bit of sugar,
I had a big revelation moment one time. I couldn't believe it. I went to what's the company? Some company that makes high-end monitors, like studio monitors, right? And I went to their, like, product launch, and they were like, try out this new set of monitors, and they were like, hey, like, let's pull up some music, like, tell me what you want to hear. And they just went on Spotify, right? And somebody pulled up like a hip hop song or something, and it felt really like full and like big bass and like, like really a lot of 808s and shit. And then And I was like, oh yeah, I got you, buddy. Let's listen to Dimmu Borgir, okay? Like so I put on what the fuck is it called? It's Progenies of the Great Apocalypse.
There you go.
Okay.
That's the one after Puritanical.
I think it's just one of the greatest metal songs ever written. Like, it's the most epic shit in the world, okay? And it's, a full-on metal band and then this huge orchestration. And I was like, for sure, this is going to be way more full range than that. And they put it on, and it felt so wimpy in comparison because the bass in hip-hop is immense compared
massive
to metal, because the fucking kick drum is only hitting like, so you can make it huge and fat, but with double kick and fast music in metal, if you have that, it's just going to be a goddamn mud fest. So they fucking shovel out so much of that low end that you could otherwise have, and that kind of sucks when you think about it. You're like, oh my god, like, have I not really been hearing, like, feeling proper bass all of these years because I listen to metal, like, thinking that it's huge,
Yeah.
but you just don't get the same, like,
Yeah.
Like,
doesn't,
a dude
doesn't
pulls
hit
up
the same way. It's just so massive, and it, like I said, for that type of music, it is definitely the driving force, as opposed to like metal, where it's like, you feel it, and when you're at the concert, you feel it. You feel the kick drum. You can, if your front of house is good, like our Robbie Brown is, you can feel that bass guitar. But the driving force of those songs is typically the guitar and the vocal. So when you have something like, rock, and then you go to something like EDM or, hip hop or synth, it's just ridiculous how much more driving, like, my instrument is in every other genre except for the genre that I play. And people have asked me, like, they're like, well, what made you want to get into synthesizers? Like, why do you want to do synth pop? And because that's what I'm trying to do, is synth pop. I want it to be pop music, but I want it to be, electronically driven. And, I'm going to use my knowledge that I've gained over the last however many years as a musician and put that towards having good bass lines and decent melodies and stuff like that. And I was just like, it's basically just because, like, the instrument that I prefer to play and that I'm the best at playing, as opposed to like guitar or ukulele or whatever, is literally almost the focal point of the songs. I mean, yeah, you have your vocal synth pop and your melodies, but the backbone of the actual songs in that genre is the bass instrument itself.
Yeah. And I think it's just a funny matter of perception, where we think of, like, bass being such a huge, because I think if you fuck up the bass guitar in a metal production, you fucked yourself, because it is incredibly important. I always tell people, like, if you put new strings on your bass, you smack the living shit out of it for the recording, and you really play it real good,
mm-hmm.
You're gonna have a good sounding album. Like, everything else everything else is really important, but the guitars become a lot less important if you really fucking do the bass right. But one thing that I've noticed is the instruments that are low instruments in a metal and rock mix, the kick drum, the, like, floor toms, and the bass, is, as opposed to those other electronic driven things that we're talking about, they have to have a ton of definition in the high end for them to stick out in the mix. You get a clicky kick drum, you get a clanky bass
tone,
and that's how it works. Because if you only had that low, like the sub part of it, you would get nothing. You wouldn't. Your brain. You're basically tricking your brain into hearing that low end by adding a high end like a signal
Yeah.
of being like the kick drum is hitting now, and then you notice that it also has low, something like that. I don't know. It's psychoacoustics, which I am not, once again, not really that qualified to speak on, but other genres don't really have that. Like the bass in hip hop sounds like a bass. Like it might have some kind of high end on it, but the bass is the bass. It's down in that like 100 hertz you're talking about. Like
Yeah, it's in between like 50 hertz and 120 hertz.
yeah, and because it can stand on its own in that range, it doesn't need this high end thing to be like a signifier that it's happening.
Yeah.
And you hear somebody pull up next to you at the stoplight when they've got the big ass sound system with the subs and everything,
Yeah.
and you feel it rattle your car.
Yeah.
They're never listening to Pantera,
No.
like they're listening to hip hop, and like the producers are thinking of that in advance, and they're
But I also noticed the guys that do have the big sound system and that listen to metal, they're more prone to actually blowing their speakers because their low end, the instruments that are giving them the low end also have the aggressive low end, but they also have an aggressive high end.
yeah.
So like those clanky kick drums, like those are just gonna beat up your speakers. And a lot of guys, when you're doing the bass, they'll say like the low end is around 100 hertz, 120 hertz, and some guys are up to 10K with the clank on bass guitars and recording. So it's just like, you're putting your speaker through a lot. when your low end source only has the source of low end and not the top end, I don't think it's as detrimental to your speakers. I could be completely fucking wrong. But I mean, all the dudes I know who listen to metal real loud with their massive speaker systems were going through speakers at least decent amount.
I think it's funny that when we talk about this, like, we think of I don't know, guitar as being extremely important, but the bass is the most full frequency of the two. Like you're saying, like when you have a good bass tone, you have to worry about all of it. You have to worry about the low end, the mids, the high end, and it's the clank is going all the way up, like whatever, like pretty high, depending. Like I don't know.
I think we don't go above 5.5K.
What's the last slider on your on the dark glass?
Yeah.
But it's but guitar is incredibly narrow, like comparatively. Like you have to worry a bit about the 100. Like the Andy Sneap C4 trick is multi-band compressor, you put it on the 100 because that's where when you palm mute, it's gonna fart out or not. But like a guitar speaker, the whole thing is that it's incredibly comparatively narrow. Like the high end that you get out of a guitar speaker is very rolled off. And if you've ever plugged a guitar amp or a modeler or something in without a cab sound on it, with a high gain sound, you immediately understand why a guitar speaker is what really defines the sound of the guitar. Because you play a distorted sound without a cab sound on it, and it's like being stabbed in the ear. It's fucking terrible.
Same with bass. It just sound. There's no definition whatsoever. I mean, if you're going along the lines of like modeler and then taking the cab off, it feels like there's a lot more top end, and you lose a lot of that low end.
Yeah, but it doesn't hurt quite as bad.
No,
it
definitely
doesn't. It still sounds like a bass.
Yeah. And the guitar would sound like a weapon of ear destruction.
Yeah. And so like the bass is like, I sound like I'm over here kissing your ass because you're a bass player, but like when we were recording our album, I paid way more attention to what the bass sounded like than the guitar, because it has to carry so much of it. And like it's okay for the guitar to be really narrow because it's, like you were saying, it's very mid-focused, and that's like where it's gonna where it's really obvious to be heard. Like that's the where human hearing kind of like focuses on, is that like the Peter range. Peter Griffin.
Yeah, I talk like this and everybody's gonna hear me. Lois.
And you know, if it's just that, it's fucking annoying. But you fill it out with the bass.
Yeah.
Just get in there. But you
Even
also
some-
have to have that clank
Yeah.
to give it definition and shit. And like, it's so goddamn important.
Well, that's when I kind of figured out how important, for me anyway, being, again, this is just my opinion, but how important distortion is on bass and separating, having a clean sub style input and then having the mid high range distortion. When I was, back in the early 2000s listening to, Meshuggah or bands like Nemec, and, you hear, that, I mean, I knew that the bass was distorted, but then when the guitars go by themselves, you're like, oh, that's really not that heavy. But when you put it in context with the distorted bass, and it kind of just grabs onto that guitar tone, and it makes it that much heavier. So I was like, Nemec's guitar tone isn't really that heavy, but it's in conjunction with the bass guitar sound that, like I said, it just kind of blends together, and it just turns this wimpy little guitar tone into just a massive punch you in the fucking nutsack guitar tone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, people don't really think about, like, when you're listening to a final product metal recording, they're like, oh, that guitar sounds awesome. But really what they're hearing is the guitar, the bass, and the kick drum working together. And that's what creates that impact. If you take out the bass, the guitars sound really wimpy most of the time now, because it's that like super gritty top end of the bass is filling it out a lot, and then the low end is like, it's the bass and the guitar working together, but probably the guitar's been high passed to like whatever, at least 100-ish or something like that. I don't know. I don't mix, so I don't. I watch the experts do it a little bit and get a vague idea. I'm all front end
idea, same.
of the
Same.
of the recording process. But yeah, so like, it's you can't fuck around with the bass. You can't fuck around. Although I went kind of like 180, like, so the thing that you're describing, like the split and grit, as I've heard it referred, having a nice clean bottom that's like super compressed probably, but just like really fat and clean, and then having this clanky top end that you might put through like a distortion pedal or a guitar amp or something or whatever, like the Dark Glass X Ultra, or you're saying
the
like
X series.
X7.
The X series of pedals
like,
are basically kind of what that does.
Yeah, it does it all in one, and I thought that was so. I was so.
The Doug Pinnick pedal does
excited.
it, but
the
Doug Pinnick, the
Doug Pinnick,
the Sansamp Doug Pinnick pedal does it. But it does not do it as well as the Dark Glass X series. So they have like three of those. I'm a big user of the X7. I used the X Ultra for a while, but I prefer the proprietary pedals. Like the X7 to me is a little bit hotter and just a little bit more distinctive than the Ultra. And that's kind of across the board, in my opinion. The Ultra pedals seem to be a lot less hot and a lot less defined. But the proprietaries, like the B7K, the Vintage Deluxe, the X7, the Alpha Omega, the original, they seem to just have this more, because it's not working with a clean channel as well. They seem to just have, it seems to be more focused on what that pedal is supposed to be. So I prefer the proprietary, the when they first come out and release a new pedal, it's the big version, without a clean channel. But the X7 is right now, if I do decide to, if the Quad Cortex works for me and I can't get the Parallax to work how I want it to work in conjunction with the rest of the Quad Cortex, I mean, a lot of my tone comes from the X7, my live tone anyway.
Yeah.
And I've been very fortunate enough that, if you go back and listen to any of the Bad Wolves material, that there is a strong bass guitar on a lot of our songs, and I do you know, I do really appreciate that as a bass player. You know,
you didn't just go in for just to feel good about yourself and track the thing, and then just you're like, I'm pretty sure I'm on this recording. I am no, you're like, yeah, there's Kyle.
Yeah, you really. I mean, if you listen to songs like "I'll Be There" and "No Masters" and you know a few others, I'm not going to name all of them where you can hear the bass because there's actually more than just a couple. You know, I'm very fortunate to be heard and have a really nasty bass tone because we have good producers. But yeah, live. I mean, if the Dark Glass X7 didn't exist, that would make my live tone a whole lot more fucking complicated. It would literally have to be running two amps, or at least two different pedal chains running into two separate cab simulators.
You want to hear something really funny?
What?
So I did a video called Perfect Metal Bass Pedal Board, and it uses this thing called Tyler the Frequency Splitter, which is basically like a crossover. Fucking great pedal, right? Yeah. And I built this whole pedal board around it. You know, I had one side that was all the stuff that's going on the sub, the compressor, the all of that, and then like distortion for the top end. Actually, I did use the Dark Glass Alpha Omega for the high end.
It's a great distortion pedal,
which also has a cab sim on it. It was the
Ultra.
Yeah, it was the Ultra one that had the cabs. Okay, and like all this shit, and like it's I like had it all ready, and I was gonna film the video, and then out comes the fucking the X7, and I was like,
"This is literally what I just did."
All that, like, I think the X Ultra, it could be that, and a tuner could be your whole rig.
That's exactly what I used for Devin Townsend. So my setup for Devin Townsend, I brought a wireless, but I didn't even end up using it. My entire setup for Devin Townsend was a pedal train Nano. I had a Korg tuner going into an EBS multi-comp in multi-band mode, going into a Dark Glass X Ultra with the cab sim on, and that went to front of house.
Fuck.
That was literally that was all I needed.
Sounded banging to me from where I was sitting. I mean,
yeah, I did see that Tyler the Splitter sound creator or whatever it's called. I thought
Tyler the creator. Well, you know what? I figured it out. So it's the reason it's called Tyler the Frequency Splitter is
Tyler the creator.
No, it's made by a German company, KMA Audio Machines, and auf Deutsch, Teil means to split. T-E-I-L. T-E-I-L-E-R, something Tyler. And so he made it a guy's named Tyler, the Frequency Splitter.
Now, it's
a dope pedal. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
But I'm saying, like, if you don't feel that the X series of pedals is for you, that's totally fine. The next thing that, like, if you really wanted to hone in your multi-band type distortion, that would literally be the only other thing that I would suggest is that pedal, and then literally building your what type of distortion you want, what type of low compression you want and low frequency you want, besides using a laptop live and using like the FabFilter Saturn plugin. But the one thing I really love about the X series pedals, now maybe not for the mini one, but I know for the X7 and the X Ultra, is you have these high filter, the high pass and low pass filters, and you can do so fucking much with the low and high pass filters. I mean, typically I keep the low pass filter at around 30 hertz or whatever, but I mean, like, if you're messing around with that high pass filter, you turn it up all the way, it's the tightest clean distortion. It's almost like not even distorted, but it still kind of is. And then as you roll off that high pass filter, like, you can just see the waves getting bigger. So you can get like a really nasty, you know, like broken speaker type fat wave kind of saw bass tone out of it, and that's my favorite thing to fuck with when I'm just like, I'm sick of my tone. I don't typically won't fuck with the graphic EQ, because the graphic EQ is like, that's where I'm living. But using those low and high pass filters, you can really just change your tone at like immediately. Like, even if you're just going from, I mean, do I have a pedal? No, it's in my storage. I typically keep them over here in my little desk drawer, but just messing with the high pass filters can even give you, a drastic change in tone.
Yeah, there's a whole little universe in there.
Yeah. And I mean, really, if you're into distorted bass tone and hate losing low end, and you don't like the Dark Glass X series, you haven't fucked with it enough, in my opinion. I mean, I've turned a bunch of guys onto the Dark Glass stuff. I know that Dickie from Breaking Benjamin, I turned him on to, I think he's splitting his signal using a Dark Glass head and his Axe effects now. Just because he really liked the Dark Glass head that I had brought on the tour. And, I gotten Brad Walst from 3 Days Grace. He's running a whole Dark Glass rig now. He heard my X7. He goes, "What the fuck is that?" And I was like, "Oh, let me tell you a little something." Because I mean,
tell you about it.
because I've been in the low tuned, bass playing world, and I'm not gonna lie, yeah, it did start with me copying a lot of stuff from that I had heard from Adam Nolly Get Good. But because anytime Dark Glass came out with a new product, I would literally buy it, and I would learn as much about how the product worked and what frequencies did what, just to try to get my tone to be better every time something came out. Because, my favorite tone of all time before the X7 was using a B7K as my quote-unquote clean channel, and then throwing a fucking B3K in front of it, and that's where I got my distortion from. So I was using, I was proprietarily using the blend features on the B7K to keep that low, like non-affected low end on my quote-unquote clean channel, but also using the gain features that come with both pedals, and again the blend feature, so I can still keep that low clean unaffected bass signal, but having the nasty dirty distortion. That's always been my thing. So now that Dark Glass has come, between where Dark Glass has come from, the B3K and B7K, to where they're at with the X series pedals, like I always learned about what these pedals do and how to use them for any of the situations that I was in. So, I mean, I don't want to say that I'm like, I know everything there is about Dark Glass pedals, but when it comes to somebody who doesn't work for the company, I literally have everything that they've ever made, and I know how to use it in conjunction, not only with each other, but with other pedals as well. So when, guys like, Brad Walsh from 3 Days Grace, they asked me like, "Oh, hey, like blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "All right, cool. This is what your normal bass tone is. You would do well with the Ultra series." As like, but if you want some of the nasty, let me show you this X too. And, he got a head. I think he's got some cabs now. But he got a lot of pedals. And then, I mean, people might hate me for this, and I'm not sure if you know this, but I'm a big Nickelback fan, a big Nickelback supporter as well. But I actually got Mike Kroger. Wrong with that. I actually got Mike Kroger on Dark Glass. I'm sorry, Kruger. That's how you say the last name, Kruger.
Is it really Kruger?
Yeah, it's Kruger.
Oh, we've all been saying it wrong forever.
I mean, I've been calling Chad Kruger the Krog for I don't even know how long. But
it's
yeah,
like Matt from Trivium. His last name is Hafey.
Oh, is it Hafey?
Hafey.
Oh, I mean that makes sense with how it's spelled, but I guess Hefey.
But I think pretty much everybody says Hefey.
Yeah.
And then like I shot a video of, I went down to his place in Florida and shot some video with him, and he was like, "Matt Hafey," and I was like, Let me stop you right there. You're saying your name wrong. No,
excuse
but like,
me, sir. You're saying, dude. I mean,
but I've got all the Dark Glass. Which one don't I have? I don't have the smallest X pedal, the little one.
Yeah.
And I don't have a B3K. But I've got all that shit. I think the X Ultra is the pinnacle for me.
For a rig in a box, that is literally the go-to. Now, if you have an outside source, I mean, if you have like an Element, because they have the cab simulator out now, which I think is fucking amazing the way that they did that, where you can load 5 pre-selected IRs and switch through them, you know. But
actually, I haven't tried that one yet.
It's great. It's great. But I mean, for a rig in the box, if you literally just want to show up to a show with just your bass guitar and a tuner and one pedal that does everything, I mean, you really can't get any better than the X Ultra. It has a clean channel, it has a dirty channel, it has a cab simulator. Like, what more do you need? That's literally 2 fucking pedals and you're good to go.
I think the only danger, and this is like a very zoomed out view of music production in general, is what happens is when you get something that's that fucking good, everybody starts using it, and then everybody starts sounding kind of the same. Now, what's great about the X Ultra is that the X series is that you skip a lot of bullshit to get to the place where you sound like everybody else anyways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a lot of people are going to wind up there with taking the long route of doing so much work to split their signal. Like, dude, I interviewed Billy Sheehan for Sons of Apollo.
Yeah.
And he told me the whole story of the evolution of his bass tone. Okay, like using the Gibson neck pickup and the P bass pickup and wiring 2 outputs and sending one to a bass amp, one to a guitar amp. Like back in the day, you had to do that kind of shit. And he's like, now I use a Helix and I do everything in there and that's it and it's done. And like, great. And then even in like using a Helix, using a modeler or something, you know, you're using all kinds of parallel processing and boop, 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 boop. Like you get the X7 or the X Ultra, whatever, you're done. Like it does all of that internally, and it seems like fucking low-hanging fruit. For the longest time, I was like trying to figure out how to make a pedal. Like I was like, I got to go to somebody and have them make me a pedal that does this, and then out comes Dark Glass. Now, the thing that I showed you, or that I was talking about before, the Perfect Metal pedal board for bass, what's cool about doing that sort of a thing, using Tyler the frequency splitter or something similar, and then choosing each of the different elements, you can get a more unique sound. Like, for example, you could use a fuzz pedal as your distortion for your top end. You could use a different kind of compressor that has a different flavor. You could use a fucking metal zone as your distortion.
You really wanted to,
For when you're using the Dark Glass thing, you've got the distortion that they've chosen in there, and it sounds like the fucking breath of God. It's amazing. Like,
with the high pass filter, that's what I'm saying. You can go from a massive big wave, nasty snarling distortion to I don't even know if this is if this makes sense, but a clean and pristine distortion.
Yeah,
you know,
you just get that little zing on the top end.
Yeah. I mean, me and Jacob Umansky from Intervals, we set our X7s pretty close, and I can tell you he sounds way better than I do.
Well, he plays in a genre where, like, not only can you hear the bass, but there's some, like, it's athletic. It's important that it's instrumental. Like, it's instrumental. You got to, like, what every instrument is doing is very, very important. And so he can stick out a lot more.
Yeah. I just think he has better finger tone than I do. That's it.
Well, he's a fucking freak of nature.
Actually, I've been getting bass lessons from him. He texted me while we've been in the podcast, because we do our lessons every Wednesday. But yeah, I've been getting lessons from him because I'm self-taught when it comes to music. I took a couple of lessons. When I was playing guitar, I was taking guitar lessons, but all I wanted to do was learn how to sweep pick, so I didn't care about anything else. So I didn't remember any of it. But I was getting guitar
I should send you my sweep picking course, or not course. I have a course. Anyway, I'll send it to you.
Please do. So I was getting guitar lessons from AJ Minette, who's the original guitar player from the Human Abstract, And I remember I didn't remember anything else because all I wanted to learn was the sweep pick like he did. And I mean, I can still sweep pick pretty well, but but I never retained any of the stuff that he had taught me. So getting into, quarantine and lockdown and not touring, I was like, you know what? There's two things I've always wanted to be better at, and it's singing, and I want to be because it doesn't seem to be a rock bass player, like, an arena rock style bass player who's also really fucking good at playing bass, not just for metal, but for, a bunch of different genres. And Jacob Umansky, to me, seems to be that guy. He's very diverse. He's so fucking smart with all this shit too. He's an amazing bass player. And he just, I think he went to, Berkeley? Yeah. I think he went to Berkeley.
He's a guy who is not an asshole for having a 6-string bass.
No, and he's not an asshole in general either. He's like the sweetest, fucking most talented.
I just mean like he actually needs it and uses it. Like,
yeah, totally. He's one of the only guys where I'm like, are you really doing? I mean, that's why I switched from using the Dingwall 5 strings to 4 strings. I don't need that 5th string, dude. I don't. Not for what I've been playing. I mean,
there's like a couple bucks on each pack strings.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's one song where I need that high string. One song. I can think of one song in all of the Bad Wolves recorded material that I've needed that high string. It's one song, and that's it. But so I just decided, I was like, all right, I want to do this. I want to become more proficient. I want to learn more theory. And I know because I play with a pick, I've never really focused on my finger techniques. And like, that's the big problem for me right now. And originally, when I started doing lessons with Jacob, I just wanted to maybe get to know a little bit more of music theory and understand it a little bit more. And then I really wanted to get into like the double thumping like techniques. I do kind of want to get rid of the pick, because I feel like everything that I want to do, because right now I play with a pick, and then when I'm not playing with a pick, the pick goes into my mouth and I'm slapping. But my slap technique is terrible. I mean,
Slap sounds so good with metal, though. Like, It's so aggressive and awesome. If you can fucking do it like Evan Brewer, like, you'll have a wonderful time.
Yeah, and he's another double thump guy as well. So I'm just like, let me get rid of the middleman. Like, let me, do this, or, do my slap stuff. And I just kind of want to come, not that it's like, I have to come out of quarantine being a better bass player than I was, but I feel like I would be doing a disservice to myself if I didn't at least, apply a few things to make myself a better musician, not only for my band, but for me as a player. This year has been as shitty as it's been. The beginning of this year has been the best fucking year of my career. I've been so fucking lucky. I've been so fortunate. I got to play with one of my fucking idols, Devin Townsend. I got to fucking go on tour with one of my favorite thrash metal bands, Megadeth. I got to play and experience so many different things with so many different great artists and people that I idolize. I feel like I would really be doing myself a disservice to not be the very best bass player Kyle that I can be, because I want to continue to do this, and I want to continue to grow, and I want to continue to be able to play with people who I think are way fucking out of my league. Like when I don't know why Wes Hauck has this fucking bass player hard on for me, and I really appreciate it. But he said, like, it's all over my Instagram and Facebook. He's just like, best bass player in rock and roll right there. And I'm like, I don't fucking know who you're watching, but it sure as fuck is.
Well, you're doing something right then. That's great. Nobody's calling me for a bass gig. Nobody's calling me for any gigs at all. That's for goddamn sure. But you know what to do. You know what, Wes is always saying, like, does it have what it takes? Like, or he says, like, this has what it takes. That fucking cracks me. Wes is hilarious.
I love Wes.
But he has no reason to fucking give you the reach around if he doesn't mean it. So, like,
no, I know.
I know exactly what you're saying. Like, there are levels. Like, there's, you don't want to think about, like, oh, this guy's better than me or this, but, like, there are levels, and I also wish that I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to level up and spend the time to learn like that. And it's amazing that you're taking the time to be like, I want to get there. Like, a lot of people never have that ambition at all. And I mean, I guess I'm kind of doing that with composing.
Shit,
Yeah.
I just want to do like I felt like I was good enough. Wes gave me a good enough good enough recommendation to be able to do this stuff with Devin Townsend. I was like, I like, if Bad Wolves isn't doing something, like, I still want to go and play with other cool bands. Like,
yeah.
I want to keep myself as busy with music as possible. I mean, when there isn't a lockdown or quarantine and no gatherings can happen. I mean, dude, I have 3 jobs. I have the band, I work for a music production company, and I also do IT for trade shows. So it's like, I want to be able to not have to hump cases around town when I'm not on tour. And I don't want to, I mean, actually, I probably would still do the IT shit, because as crazy as it gets, it's fucking fun. And I love the people that I work with doing it. But, I want to be able to make my life and living off of being able to be like, this fucking dead tree with some metal strings back here, like, that's how I make my living, in my hands, of course. But
there's it's definitely probably a lot more fun than humping cases, like you're saying. And if you can do it, then why not, right? It's what I realized is, a lot of the people that I know who are gigging musicians and do it for a living, aside from the fact that right now that they're completely fucked, which sucks really badly, but guys who get the call to do the gig for any genre and whatever, they front loaded so hard. They leveled up early on and put themselves out there to play this kind of shit. They were doing gigs all the time, just taking whatever they could get and like learning everything so that they would be a weapon. And then they they get to that level and they can do that kind of thing. For example, my friend Anthony Crawford is like played with Alan Holdsworth. Like he's outrageously good. He plays in the band Witherfall. And because he'll do whatever, he's just a beast, an incredibly sweet man, like really crazy good. But like he got to a ridiculous level very early on, and now he can do anything. He's on this level, very, very high level, and I didn't do that. And so now I'm 36, and if I want to level up, it's gonna, like, I don't have that kind of time to be spending 8 hours a day in a practice room like when I was at Berkeley. Like, if I want to hard level up like what you're talking about, I need that kind of time. And it sounds like 2020 has afforded you the opportunity, which is like
well, I mean,
to do that, and that's, I honestly kind of envy you in that sense, because I want to do that. I want to take lessons from dudes, and I want to level the fuck up. And it sounds like you're doing it.
I've been doing that, but I've also been trying to do stuff that, guys like you and, fucking represent Davey 504, have been doing for a really long time. And, haven't been consistent with it, which is why when you asked, you're like, hey, is this audio or is it just video? And I was like, well, I didn't tell you this when we were messaging, but I was like, this is kind of like a milestone podcast, because I had a podcast 4 years ago and I never made it to the 12th episode. So having you as my 12th episode, and also being a guy who is, kind of made his mark on the world via YouTube and stuff like that, I figured might as well just fucking post this episode up. Am I going to do more episodes like this? I don't know. Probably not.
One way to find out.
Yeah. And I just figured, I'm not going to lie. I kind of have half-assed everything that I've picked up as a hobby in quarantine, except for the podcast and except for playing bass. Like the whole, like right now, like filming another playthrough video or a cover video, that doesn't feel good for me. And I made a list. I made a list video, which I thought came out really shitty, so I scrapped it completely, and I'm probably never gonna put it out because I didn't like the way that it looked or whatever.
Yeah.
But I've just been kind of not really focusing on the YouTube side of things. and and all the podcasts that I've done over the break as well is, to be a musician now is you kind of have to be guys like yourself. You have to be a guitar player, you have to be an engineer, you have to be a videographer, you have to be able to editing videos. And I mean, my video editing skills are very, very like minuscule. Like I know how to edit, but I don't know how I would have been able to edit my list video, because I'm literally sitting there for I think 27 minutes talking about I called it budget bass rigs, and I picked 3 bass guitars that were under $300, and I picked 3 bass amps that were under $300, and just the way that I set it up, and it was like I did it in order, but I would forget something that I had talked about on a previous instrument. I'd be like, oh, okay. So then I was going back and forth like, oh, you forgot that you need to put this over here now. And it was just turning into a fucking shit show. So maybe I just need to have a better way to, focus my ideas when it comes to making a list video, because I fucking love list videos. I don't know why.
I mean, that sounds like a video that will do really well. And I think you should do it. I think you should do it over if you need to.
I think I'm going to do it over, and I'm going to have like a list of. I think I need to have at least a notepad in front of me that has the basic ideas of what I want to talk about for each piece, because I do go into depth on where they stand in the quality of instrument. I do everything from, I think it was like a $99 Mustang bullet bass to a $299 Ibanez bass. I felt like it wasn't focused enough, and because of having to go back and forth and take this part from this part, and the edit it looked like shit because I've had to do that.
It's a thing like you just do it and do a bad job to start out with, and it just gets better as you go. Dude, if you go back and look at my old videos, you'll feel a lot better about you, like whatever you came out with. Like
my edits now aren't terrible, because the one thing I have learned from doing interviews and stuff like that, and doing visual interviews over this past thing, is I try not to move too much when I'm talking, because I feel like
continuity
or hand movements. Yeah. Because if I do have to make a quick edit, I don't want it to be like, like you said, like, all right, now he's over here, I see that in videos sometimes. None of your videos.
No, that's bullshit. I do that all the time.
I don't notice that you're editing.
You want to hear the cure for that?
What?
This can be, some people, if you do it too much, it can get annoying. I've had comments about it. The pop zoom. When you have a cut like that, you zoom in 10%. And then the next time you have a cut, you zoom back out.
Yeah.
That makes it a lot less obvious.
Yeah, that's probably why.
Tips from Trey.
That's why I see like a lot of guys like, Stevie T and Davey 504, they have a lot of those pop edits. And I've actually been trying to figure out how to do that. And I think when I was trying to figure out how to do that, I actually fucked up in the video, because I was doing the pop edits for that video, because I was like I said, the continuity was off. And I couldn't get it just right. Because,
in YouTube, people don't really give a shit. Like, they know that you're not in a fucking studio with 3 cameras. Like,
Yeah.
I think you're probably being too self-conscious about it, and
I'm
probably need to not work. It's
am.
probably fine.
And I mean, it sucks because you can't see from this camera that you're looking at me at, but I'm looking at my camera that I'm filming with, and I'm like, damn, Kyle, you really did kind of figure out how to do lighting in the space that you have. It doesn't come across on the Logitech camera, but on the Canon it comes across. I mean, like in the Canon, you can see my purple fucking, my purple lights I got going on in the background and shit.
Yeah,
actually,
I can see.
After we're done with the podcast, I'm gonna ask you probably some questions about lighting, because that is my biggest. That's my biggest.
Dude,
problem
it took me so long to figure that out, but like I can see in the zoom I look like the yellow bastard from Sin City or whatever. What's the
Sin City, yellow bastard.
Sin City,
yeah.
yellow bastard. Yeah. But in my camera, I look like fucking gold.
I mean, I don't look like gold in this camera, but I definitely look better than I do in this camera. This is very flesh washed. It's very, and this is more.
Whoa, there's a death metal band named Flesh Washed. I'm dry as a bone, so that sounded like garbage, but
that's all right.
Flesh Washed.
But
Yeah, dude. Well, speaking of after the podcast, I'm starting to get a bit nippy, so maybe
I have to pee as well.
I can't believe I've sat here this long without having to pee, and even with all of the Arrowhead inside of me.
Yeah, and after about almost 3 hours, this is my longest podcast.
Oh my god, I have it ticking off in minutes, and I haven't done the math because I'm. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go get some food pretty soon.
If you're gonna do it, I'm gonna do it in logic time. It's been 5,422 bars at 120 BPM.
Well, I'm not gonna do that math because fuck that. Hold on.
Yeah, we started around 4:50. It's 7:46 right now.
Oh god, yeah, we just passed about 3 hours.
Yeah, but
well, it's been really fun. That's why I went so fast. It didn't feel like that.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm glad we have finally had some time to chat, because I know at the times that we've run into each other, it's either been at NAMM, 70K, or a Dime Bash, so we haven't really had a chance to.
And all of those things happened within a few weeks of each other.
I think within a week of each other.
Yeah.
So, I really appreciate you coming on. If you want to tell my listeners and viewers where they can find all of your things, so I don't have to repeat it again.
Well, if you've made it this far in, you win a prize. You don't really. I don't have anything to give you. But if you want to find more of Trey Xavier, geargods.net. Gear Gods on YouTube and Instagram and all that. YouTube is kind of our primary outlet. My band is called In Virtue. We are also on YouTube. That's probably the best place to find us. In Virtue, 2 words. And, where else? Oh, you can't find me in real life. I'm a secret hermit.
Twitch, Twitter.
Twitch, thank you. Twitch is the other thing. I stream twice a week on Twitch. Wednesdays, I stream song critiques for subscribers.
I've seen those. Those are good.
It's really fun. So people, bring their songs and we listen to them, and I kind of break them down and like say things that I would do to improve them, which I don't know if I'm qualified to do, but people seem to like it. So, and then on Sundays I write songs on Twitch. It's usually like 5, 6, 7 hours. Last week I went 8 hours.
Jesus Christ! And that's Gear Gods Official.
Gear Gods Official on Twitch. Thank you. And and then I stream. I do the song critiques on YouTube as well on Friday nights. I got a packed schedule, and thank you so much for having me on. This has been really great. I've been following your outrageous success with Bad Wolves.
Thank you so much.
And just being like, oh my god. What? Wow! Oh, look at them go! They're still going.
Very fortunate in my
wild
career.
Ride, man.
So, dude,
and then seeing it with Devi was like, I was like, yep, that makes sense.
Well, dude, I really, really appreciate all those nice things that you said about me. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day, and then between making a post about doing this podcast and then doing a 3-hour podcast, there's only about an hour in between. So being quick, ready, and available, I really do appreciate your time, Trey.
It's a good year for it. Absolutely.
And all you guys in the internet world, thank you for joining me and Trey on this 12th episode extravaganza of Just STFU podcast with your boy, Kyle Conkeal. Until next time, this is Conky out.
Peace.